Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents The Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com, our YouTube channel, and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Well, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Tuesday installment of the Sports Cage, which is brought to you by Saskatchewan Lotteries, bringing communities together. Saskatchewan Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. My name is Teagan Witko. I will be your host today, and I am joined by the one and only Curtis Gammon, who is keeping us on the air at 620 CKRM on the stream as well. At sportscage.com, our X account, our YouTube channel as well. That is where you can join in the conversation. You can also do so on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. In just a little bit here, I'll talk to you about how you can win some pretty cool prizes with SaskTel Pick the Score as well. You just have to text us your game predictions for this Friday in Ottawa as your Saskatchewan Roughriders take on the Red Blacks. But first, let's talk about what we're going to get to today because we have a lot to talk about. All of our guests join us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Perfect pizza, generous amount of toppings, and all the Greek favorites you love. So Arash Madani is going to be joining us yet again today. Yesterday, we focused heavily on the World Cup and Canada's venture towards this next stage, the round of 16. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that now that we know they're facing Morocco. We're going to get his take on that. We're also going to talk about everything that was in week 4 of the CFL. And of course, a pretty big night at Rogers Centre in Toronto as Bo Bichette made his return facing the Toronto Blue Jays. So we'll talk about that one. It was a win for the Jays, but it wasn't really a pretty one. We'll get into that. Scott Schultz with the midweek sound off. He'll be joining us. Considering tomorrow is Canada Day, it's a stat holiday, which means that, Schultz is going to be busy watching some fireworks. So we're not going to have him on the show today. In fact, there isn't a show tomorrow. So that's why we're going to have him on today before we get too close to that Friday game for your Saskatchewan Roughriders. And we'll talk about everything that transpired last week for the Green and White against the Toronto Argonauts at Mosaic Stadium. As always, we will have your clutch performer around 4:30 this afternoon. We're also going to be chatting with Glen Suitor. The one and only rider legend, TSN analyst, is going to be joining us for all of the CFL talk. We got your sprinkle of the day and all the latest information that you need as it pertains to Rough Riders practice at Mosaic Stadium this afternoon. We do have some updates for you, courtesy of our own Dave Thomas. As promised, SaskTel Pick the Score. This is your opportunity to win, okay? Get out your phone, dial up our number. 306-936-6262. You're going to want to send us a text message today. And all we need is for you to send in your name and your score prediction for this Friday in Ottawa for your riders. Again, if you don't send your name, it's really hard to know who the winner is. So please include your name, include what you think the final score will be, and you have a chance to win a $200 SaskTel gift card. Plus, you'll also have the opportunity to win 2 tickets for the next Rider home game, which is going to be coming up next Sunday. So again, SaskTel Pick the Score. What do you think? The 2-1 Riders taking on the 0-3 Red Blacks. What will that final score be? Kickoff is at 5:30 on Friday afternoon.
You got to kick things off. You got to let us know what you're thinking, Teagan.
Oh, are you putting me on the spot asking for a prediction?
Yes.
34-20 Riders.
34-20.
That's what I'm going to go with. Right back at you, buddy. What do you think?
Double score, hey?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I think I'll be a little bit closer than that, to be honest. I would also wager that the Riders probably win this one, but I'm going to say it's going to be 32-30 for the Riders.
Oh, it's going to be a tight one.
Close one.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of former Saskatchewan Roughriders on that team, so there's a good chance that they kind of know the systems that they're going to be coming into Ottawa with.
Inside baseball right there. And yeah, Jake Mayer had a pretty good game, to be honest. Like, despite losing, like, he went for over 300 yards.
And Jake Maier's coming in there with something to prove.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, don't discount him. He's getting his opportunity now because obviously he was the backup here in Saskatchewan for quite some time, and now he's getting the opportunity as a starter, which obviously caused a little bit of controversy based on some of the reports that we're seeing based on Drew Brown going to, back to Winnipeg, because I guess after he didn't get that starting gig, there was some people saying he was becoming a bit of a distraction in that locker room.
Yeah.
And the drama in the CFL.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very telling, very telling about Drew Brown as a whole, that Jake Maier comes in there. You see a little bit of him in training camp. You're like, yep, here's the keys to the car. You're the starting quarterback. Drew, take a seat.
But it's not like Jake Maier is a rookie either. He's been around the league long enough to know how to command a team. He just hasn't really had that opportunity behind Trevor Harris here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, for sure. And then he was the starting quarterback in Calgary for a little while too. Like, he is talented enough to start in the CFL, to say the least. But I guess you could say the same thing about Drew Brown. Like, they're both kind of on the cusp. But if it's like a locker room leadership thing and like Drew Brown's being problematic, it's like, oh yeah.
You never really know what's happening behind those closed doors.
No, absolutely, you do not.
Which makes this even more of a fun league to cover.
Yes, it can get pretty close in a 9-team league. A lot of
and that's why
crossover.
There's so many of those players have played for almost every team, right? We see it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what's your prediction? Let us know on the Prairie Land Rentals text line. Prairie Land Rentals. From small power tools to skid steers, they probably have what you need. Deal with the owner at 600 Albert Street. Curtis is going to be watching those text messages rolling in here. So 306-936-6262. Oh, and apparently Barney gave Curtis a nickname. It's Backgammon. This is news to me.
Yeah.
Do you like backgammon?
I've played it.
I meant the nickname, not the game.
It's fine. Backgammon's one of those weird things where I usually do pretty good when I start, and then I just always fumble the bag. I've never won a game of backgammon. But
you probably played more than me, so I can't sit here and judge. That's fine.
I haven't played that much, but I'm more of a chess guy.
Okay.
But
that sounds even more boring.
Come on.
Backgammon is going to be monitoring your text messages here if you want a chance to win the $200 SaskTel gift card. And, of course, tickets to the next Rider home game. We already have Wade texting in here, 3520 for Saskatchewan. And then we have another one here. Again, no name on it. Make sure you text in your name, okay? 3223 for the Riders. So let us know what your score predictions are. Get them in before the end of the show today. Okay, 306-936-6262. Let's start here locally with a couple of things that you might need to know. The Regina Red Sox have been dealing with a lot of postponed games. There are a few doubleheaders, in fact, coming up this week, one of which being tomorrow, a doubleheader against Swift Current at Curry Field. You can't battle the weather. You just got to call it sometimes. But they did get a game in last night. They ended up winning 11-4 over Medicine Hat. So they squeak out a win there. Well, not squeak out a win. It was a pretty commanding win based on the score sheet here. But they do have that doubleheader for Canada Day tomorrow. The first game at 2 p.m., second game at 5 p.m. So things should wrap up around, 7, 8 o'clock-ish. You'll still have time to go watch the fireworks, assuming Mother Nature wants to cooperate tomorrow for Canada Day.
Hopefully. As soon as he started talking about it, I was like, I'm going to look at the weather right now.
And?
30% chance of showers.
30% I can live with.
See?
It's like a 20-kilometer-an-hour wind. We always have that.
And
lately, we've always had like a 30% chance of rain.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not above 50. That's a good sign.
Yeah,
and
we'll take it.
It's going to be 22 degrees tomorrow, which not bad weather.
Could be warmer.
Could be warmer. Could be colder. It's supposed to get to a low of 13 kind of into the evening.
It's July tomorrow.
July. You know what? You're right. It is July. I didn't even think about that.
Okay. Yeah, happy Canada Day, guys. Oh, geez. Okay, sticking with baseball, Toronto Blue Jays, New York Mets. Of course, they're going to be playing again today. Their first game of the set took place last night with Bo Bichette making his return to Toronto. It was a little bit emotional. We are going to talk to Arash Madani about that a little bit later on this hour. It was, he was tearing up. He got a standing ovation from the crowd. It was pretty cool to see. But he still went to the Mets, so I'm holding that against him. They play again tonight just after 5 o'clock is when first pitch goes out. You have Gausman taking on McLean in Toronto. Now, at this point, the Mets also struggling just a little bit. They need wins just as bad as the Jays do with the loss to Toronto last night. The Mets have tied their record for the fastest to 50 losses in a season over the last 30 years.
Oh, my.
The Mets are 35-50. And it's only July. Well, technically tomorrow is when we hit July. But yikes. 50 losses is not a good look right now. So it's going to be a real good game. Anyway, World Cup of Soccer. And we now know that Canada is going to be taking on Morocco this Saturday in Houston in the round of 16. Today, you have France and Sweden taking on each other right now. That game's still 0-0. No points up on the board just yet. Mexico, Ecuador going to be taking place at 7 o'clock tonight as well. So still a little more soccer action to look forward to. Curtis, are you a basketball guy?
No, I'm not really a basketball guy.
Did you hop on the bandwagon in 2019 when the Raptors went to the NBA final?
Yes.
So you know the name Kawhi Leonard?
Yes.
Okay. Kawhi Leonard might be coming back to Canada.
Ooh.
In fact, reports are stating it's happening. The Toronto Raptors and Los Angeles Clippers are reportedly closing in on a blockbuster deal that would send Kawhi Leonard back to Toronto. So this would be Toronto receives Kawhi Leonard in exchange for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and 2 second-round picks. It's Kawhi Leonard. If you're going to go for it, go for it.
Yeah, that's emptying out the cupboards for sure.
2019 flashbacks are happening for a lot of Raptors fans right now. But I mean, if you're going to go for it, go for it. Again, these are all just reports right now. But based on how many of these reports are coming out, my assumption is this is probably going to happen, and that official news is going to be, coming through at any point here.
Yeah, I'm no basketball expert by any means, but what would you say is old for a basketball player, Teagan?
I'm not about to age shame people. I'm not doing that, Curtis. Don't back me into a corner.
I'm as like a professional athlete. I'm saying what would you consider?
Kawhi Leonard is still, I would say he's still in his prime, and he showed up to the Jays game last night.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, is fueling the speculation even more. He's not old. He's still got some time.
Okay.
People can disagree with me. 306-936-6262. I think he's still got quite a few good years left in him.
Yeah. For reference, for anyone that isn't in the know, he turned 35 on Monday.
Yeah, 35. How dare you assume 35 is old?
It's not old, but it could be old for a professional athlete. Like, everyone's body's different, and you can see when people get older, usually their performance dips a little bit. Some do, some don't, but it is a factor.
LeBron James is in his 40s.
Yeah, well, LeBron's starting to slow down a little bit too. But
well, and LeBron also did say that he is informed the Lakers he'll be signing elsewhere in free agency, according to reports. After spending the last, 8 seasons in LA?
I'm getting a little deja vu, Is he going to be wearing like a red plaid shirt, taking his talents elsewhere?
He's just going to keep playing. He just wanted to play with his son. Come on. Like, LeBron just wanted to play with Bronny for like a season so he could say he did it. They can break those records and really make a statement and then move on.
I saw a really diabolical graphic about father-son duos of like all-time point scoring, and it was like it pit Bronny's scores with LeBron's, and it's obviously number one, but like Bronny was like 90 points or whatever. It's like LeBron over 40,000. You're like, oh, what a duo.
Oh, yeah.
Number one. But yeah, if Bronny does play for a little bit, like even if he's not like a huge star in the NBA, like that's still a pretty fun fact to be like, oh, father-son duo. It's like
I played with my dad.
Yeah, and It would be an unbreakable record for quite some time.
Never say never, Curtis.
Never say never. All right.
Tomorrow is going to be a big day. I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time at Curry Field at the ballpark here, but I'm going to be eyes glued to my phone because free agent frenzy, July 1st. A lot of names to be looking at in the NHL here. Zach Werenski, Jason Robertson, Connor Hellebuck is a big name. Dylan Larkin. So there's going to be some movement tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, we were discussing on the SportsCage like last week with Cody Jansen when he came on, and it's like, is Hellebuck gone? Say, absolutely. Hellebuck doesn't want to be in Winnipeg.
No, he wants out.
So I'd be curious to see what happens there, because obviously you don't just trade a guy because he wants out. You want to get some value for him. But on the same note there, you don't necessarily want someone in your locker room that doesn't want to be there, you know?
Yeah, that's how you can get some animosity building in that locker room.
Yeah, and then you end up with like a Vancouver Canucks situation. And you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one just yet.
Nope.
The Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired Yorkton's own defenseman, Caden Korzak. So he's leaving the Golden Knights, and he's on his way to Pittsburgh in exchange for Parker Wotherspoon.
Yorkton boy.
Korzak.
Good Sasky boy.
We love it. We love to see it. Also worth noting, when you were talking about, Hellebuck in terms of goaltenders, the Panthers might have their future in net here. It looks like they've locked in Jacob Markstrom from the Devils. 5-year deal comes right after acquiring Schmid from the Golden Knights yesterday as well. So this is likely the end of Bobrovsky's time with Florida after 2 cups with the team, and will soon be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to be hitting that open market tomorrow. So where does he go?
Wow.
Is a very interesting conversation to have right now, I think. Where does he land? And I don't know. There's some reports out there, but nothing official, nothing that even looks legitimate at this point. So I'm not even going to go out on a limb here and speak out of turn. But I think tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day to see kind of how that Panthers roster shakes out, especially now that they have both the Tkachuk boys there. Because that was definitely something they needed to address, was their goaltending. And now with Markstrom there, is that, I don't know. Is that the answer? We'll find out. SportsCage CFL Power Rankings. One more thing that I wanted to get to here before we give you a little bit of a Riders update. So, Curtis, if you could pop up the latest Power Rankings from our team, we'll go through this together here just a little bit. So, what we do is essentially every week, we get all of our contributors and a bunch of staff members here from sportscage.com, and we put together all of our picks of who should land where on the power rankings list, and then we do out an average. So right now we can see that the latest CFL power rankings have the Montreal Alouettes moving into the top spot after another strong start to the season. The Edmonton Elk continue their surge, which I think surprised a couple of people. They're climbing their way all the way up to second overall on our power rankings chart as well. They're opening up the year undefeated, so that is obviously well-deserved. And then you have the Saskatchewan Roughriders sitting at third, still in the mix despite their first loss of the regular season. Analysts are noting that, the early season volatility and key swings in performance have already reshaped the league hierarchy at this point. So the rankings do highlight how quickly momentum is shifting across the CFL, with those Elks kind of being the biggest surpriser and biggest riser. We also know that Davis Alexander and the Montreal Alouettes are establishing themselves early and really making a splash. Hamilton Tiger Cats coming in, they dropped down a spot into the number 4 slot.
Oh, no. Tied for third is what the analysts said.
Tied for third, pardon me. And then at 5th, the Toronto Argonauts. At 6, Stampeders. Bombers slipping down to 7 there. And then you have the Lions, who, might be the biggest fall we've seen in quite some time here after an unfortunate start for the BC Lions. And, of course, they just let go of their special teams coordinator this week. So I think there's a little bit of issues there in the BC Lions locker room. But they're sitting at 8th. And then the Ottawa Redblacks sit at number 9. But we've been cautioned by a few of our contributors on this show to not toss out the Redblacks for this week's matchup against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They still have some pretty key pieces. And when you look at this, there's a lot of former Riders that are on this roster as well. I mentioned it earlier, maybe that gives them a little more insight into how Trevor Harris and the offense operates, especially with some key injuries on offense right now, how the defense shakes out, because you have guys, Jake Mayer, AJ Allen, Habba Baldonado, Brett Lawther, Sean McEwen, who granted didn't play any of the regular season last year, and then CJ Rivas as well. So you have a lot of those former Riders on the Ottawa Red Blacks roster. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays a factor, if it does at all. It might not. But when it comes to your Saskatchewan Roughriders, worth noting that we did get some updates here from our own Dave Thomas earlier today. He was at Saskatchewan Roughriders practice at Mosaic Stadium. Receivers Samuel Emelis, Kean Schaefer, Baker, Dell, Duncan, Busby were all back on the field. Limited practice, but it is worth noting that they were back on the field. Ali Saad did leave practice a little bit early after what appeared to be a little bit of a tweak in his calf. So we're going to be watching that one pretty closely as we go throughout the rest of the week. Alo Dylan Jete and Ryder Varga were practicing as part of their ramp up coming off of the 6-game injured list. So limited there as well, but good to see that they're getting back on the field there. Jete, by the way, he was one of the draft picks for the Riders this past draft. And then Varga has been dealing with injuries since last season. So as we talk about that, why don't we talk a little bit with head coach Corey Mace here? Because I know some of the questions that were asked to him coming off of practice today was specifically about Ottawa, the Red Blacks, and of course his former number 2 quarterback in Jake Maier and the tendencies that Mace is going to be watching for.
Yeah, I think you can look at some things that we know about him, and then, you just see current day, obviously going to a different team with different coaches, they might want to change some things that maybe he was doing, but, the film will always tell you at the end of the day to confirm or deny things that you're seeing or what you thought, right? So I thought last game was a really good one for him. I think he's obviously getting more comfortable with his guys and in tune with the system, and obviously RD's play calling. So, yeah, man, it should be a good one.
Should be a good one.
Should be a good one. I'm intrigued. I mean, it's always been unfortunate weather in Ottawa, but that's nothing that the Saskatchewan Roughriders are unfamiliar with. Mace was also talking about weighing the weather and, a player, if they should be adjusting those plays, I guess, on the fly.
There's always a fine line with looking at that stuff. Every week is so crucial for us, but you got to look at it with a wider lens. However, in saying so, if it's somebody who shows well in practice and says they want to go, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. So, but yeah, we'll see how it rolls out.
Weather certainly going to be something that they're going to be keeping an eye on this week. And of course, the Saskatchewan Roughriders coming off of that game at Mosaic Stadium, falling to the Argonauts 40-34. They were not pleased with their performance following that game. Of course, there's always going to be flashes of things you want to improve on that, you weren't happy with, but that's going to be win or loss or otherwise. But head coach Corey Mace was asked specifically about the things that he wants to clean up this week.
To be honest, I would love to see more, I don't know, a better word, like jazz hands, like just some more enthusiasm out the guys, celebrating each other's success, just some more juice. I felt like we were lacking that last week. We know we got great players. We know we can be a great team. Just enjoy, man. Have some fun out there. I thought we were kind of reeling on that last week, but obviously, the intangibles of complementary football, all that stuff. We're still looking for our best performance. We have not put it out there, so which is good. Those are all things that we strive for in our process.
No jazz hands, Curtis. There we go. Okay, there we go. We love that.
That's just showbiz, baby.
So, head coach Corey Mace obviously wants to see a little more oomph from the team as they go into Ottawa this week. Friday, of course, 5:30 kickoff, local time, that is. But he was also talking about that, maybe lack of enthusiasm from the team, and those jazz hands specifically.
Honest opinion, I feel like, there's a few guys who just naturally have it, and some guys, need to be pushed into those roles to get the fire started. And I feel like, this team this year, some guys are having to be thrusted into those roles and are more than capable of doing it, but by nature is just kind of really not, maybe it's just more, hey, I prove it by how I play. But the cool thing is, we talk about these things in these last couple of days of practice. We're seeing it. So it's excellent.
So head coach Corey Mace talking about wanting to see a little bit more of that enthusiasm from the team this week and more of the jazz hands as Curtis keeps showing on the stream if you're watching at sportscage.com or our YouTube channel as well.
A little bit of that sparkle.
A little bit of that sparkle. Now, Corey Mace, of course, held the role of head coach and defensive coordinator last season. Now Josh Bell is stepping into that role of defensive coordinator. But he's still keeping a close eye on the defense, right? So he was talking a little bit today about what he saw from the defensive line on tape coming out of that game against their loss to Toronto at Mosaic Stadium.
I feel like there's a lot of question marks about the group just because of the people, Micah, Haba, Scoop, all these guys that we lost. Who's going to step up? And the reality is you don't know because it could be any single one of them. I know it's early in the season, but I think they're tops of the leagues in sacks and pressures. They just work together as a group very well. That being said, there's still tons of things that, they need to work on, and that's just not that group, it's everybody. But they're studious, man, they're workers, and there's no selfish play. Everybody eats.
Head coach Corey Mace talking about that D-line. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there was even someone here on the Prairie Land Rentals text line or the YouTube chat here that was talking about, I mentioned all the players that are former riders from the 2025 season who are now currently on the Ottawa Red Blacks roster. They said might as well call them the Ottawa Roughriders. I don't disagree.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah. Again, Jake Mayer, AJ Allen, Baldonado, Lawther, McEwen, Revis. I mean, there's a lot of guys who were previously on this, championship team, if you will, in 2025. Is there a risk of over-preparing for the tendencies of the familiarity between the riders and these former players that they know? Can that at all hinder you or help you? And Mace talked about that.
Yeah, I think between the rosters, between the coaches, everybody knows each other pretty well. And it's not just this week, honestly, Dave. It's any week, as coaches, you can overanalyze stuff and have a million ideas. But ultimately is, what are your players retaining? And sometimes, it is. You overanalyze things to a T and things work out great and a bunch of new stuff works. And then sometimes you try new stuff in the game and it's not working because maybe we were wrong as coaches or the players, don't quite understand the concepts or the whys or whatever. And then you got to dial some stuff back and, we could see a concept on either way, offense or defense, and know what's coming. But you got to execute in either on defense and stopping it, or execute on offense and getting making the play. So that goes both ways. But that's football, man. It's at some point it's going to be this is what I'm doing. Can you stop me?
That's football. Jazz hands.
That's a 9-team league for you as well. I mean, you're going to get familiar with all of these players at some point or another. But that, of course, was head coach Corey Mace addressing the media earlier today, coming off of Riders practice. Receiver Sam Emelis, Kean Schaefer-Baker, Del Duncan, Busby, all back on the field today. And then Ali Saad did leave the practice field a little bit early after a little bit of a tweak in his calf. So just a quick update there for you. We'll have more to come throughout the show, but in the meantime, we do need to take a quick break because we have Arash Madani standing by to talk a little more CFL. We'll talk some Jays. We'll also talk a little World Cup here. But in the meantime, let's take a break. This is the SportsCage, and it's on the home of Rider Nation. 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.
It's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani for Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Gawley at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Yes, welcome back to the Tuesday installment of the SportsCage. You're here with Teagan Witko, Curtis Gammon, and of course our next guest, Arash Madani. Thanks for coming back, buddy. I didn't scare you off too badly yesterday.
You didn't at all, Teagan. You didn't at all. How we living over there?
Well, it's rainy and it's windy. It's Saskatchewan. What else can I say?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So you were watching some FIFA World Cup last night, I assume?
I was. By the way, I have a little breaking news. The CFL just announced moments ago, Ajou Ajou has been reinstated with ongoing conditions. So what does that mean? It means he's eligible to sign with any team, but he still has to wait out the duration of the 6-game suspension. So when you get suspended for violating the gender-based violence and harassment policy, there's a few things you have to go through: mandatory counseling sessions, psychological assessment, and then a meeting with the commissioner. Ajou has gone through all of those, and now I guess he's eligible to sign. But you still have to sit out 3 more games.
Right, because he would be eligible to come back in week 6. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have released him. Do you see any teams picking him up?
I see 8 teams lining up to sign him.
Okay.
Saskatchewan won't. Look, and this is the thing, Teagan, like it's pro football. Organizations on both sides of the border pretend to care about character if the talent isn't there. But then how much are you willing to put up with is based on the ability, is based on how do you help us win. Here you have a Canadian receiver who hasn't had to be hit for 6 games, and you can get him for 2/3 of the season at 2/3 of the salary cap hit. It's not like Ajou's going to be commanding a big salary. He has to do his mea culpa right now. So you're going to get a top-end receiver for not top-end money at a time where we've got a team like Montreal. And I'm not saying the Alouettes are going to sign him. I'm just,
And it's got the right passport.
And they got receivers going down like flies. So,
What about BC?
I do. Yeah, sure. Of course. Anybody. Is he an upgrade over Nick Dembski in Winnipeg? Yeah. Younger, faster, hasn't been hit 1,000 times, durable. So let's see where this plays out. What this does is it gives him 3 weeks to learn an offense. Usually as a free agent, if you're an NFL cut, whatever, you're coming in to learn something from scratch. Mm-hmm. Now he's got an opportunity to go into a building, get to know the quarterback, get to know the other receivers, get to know the offensive coordinator, get to know the head coach, da-da-da-da-da-da.
That is going to be an interesting story to follow. Look at that. Arash Madani breaking news. Not even 30 seconds into your hit today. I like this.
There you
I'm
go.
used to this.
There you go. I needed to bring something. Curtis is sitting beside you.
He's doing.
I didn't know the president
today,
and vice president could be on the same plane together.
It sounds very similar to kind of like the Sean Lemon thing, where when Sean Lemon came back and then had to serve his suspension, but he landed in Montreal. Maybe you're onto something, Arash.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see what happens here. It's because you're also going to deal with a little bit of pushback if you're an organization that brings him in. But how long does that news cycle last?
At most, max 36 hours.
Yeah. Exactly. This is football, right?
And these days, it's football. And these days, less and less because just there's fewer media around.
That's also valid. Well, why don't we stick with the CFL then, Arash?
Sure.
Talk a little bit of Ottawa Red Blacks, because a lot of people are calling this one a bit of a trap game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Ottawa's now 0-3, right? But Jake Maier looked kind of like a different quarterback in that second half against Montreal last week. How do you like the Riders' chances this week, especially when you know that there are a ton of those former Riders on the Red Blacks roster right now?
I don't know who's calling this a trap game. The Ottawa Red Blacks are hopeless. That roster's bad. That's not a good team. Everyone's saying all the right things. They put up a fight in Montreal. Again, the Alouettes receiving core is decimated. And yeah, I agree with you, Teagan. Man, Maier looked better in the second half. There's no question. It feels like he and Dinwiddie are starting to find their way. But the Riders are the far superior team. Now you just got to go out and do it. You have to play a lot more like week 1 than you did last week against Toronto. The self-inflicted wounds against the Argos were plenty. Here's what's interesting, Teagan. I am told McLeod Bethel-Thompson is now in the building in Ottawa. So, how does this all play itself out? Dinwiddie told the local media in Ottawa last week that, McLeod's got access to their playbook, to whatever it is they do on offense, all the materials. This is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out with Maier and with McLeod, and how this is all going to go.
Maybe that's the fire Jake Maier needs.
Yeah, Jake Maier could also use a better offensive line, and and he can play a lot better too. I agree. It's look, McLeod's not the savior. This is the whole issue. Like, here's a dude who's been out of football for a while. He's been back and forth, CFL, UFL, etc., back up, and gets into the starting role. The familiarity with Dinwiddie and that offense is obviously going to help. But I just look at this, Teagan, like, people say this is a trap game. Show me where the 6 wins are for Ottawa this season. Like, I think in a best case scenario, the Red Blacks go 6-12 this year. So I guess they got to win sometime. I just don't foresee it being this week.
All right, so we know Arash's pick. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about, okay, let's shift over to the other division here with the BC Lions. They fired their special teams coordinator, Corey McDermott, in week 4 of the CFL season. That feels early. That feels like he's sending a message. Were you surprised at this decision?
I was, and the more I kind of asked around people in the league, I was told this was not Buck Pierce's decision. I was told this was the decision of Ryan Rigmaiden, the general manager. And the last I checked, McDermott isn't the defensive coordinator. He's the special teams coordinator. And yes, I get it. In the kicking game, they give up the big kickoff return for a touchdown. Rider fans know all about that, especially against Calgary. Same dude. This is a full scapegoat move to the air quote do something. Somebody's got to go, so let's just get rid of somebody. And nobody has to go. This is a decision made that really is needless. And here's the amazing part, Teagan. When I was calling around to be like, hey, what are you hearing over there in BC? People were asking me, hey, do you know who the special teams coordinator is now? And I'm like, no. They're like, yeah, we don't either. So this is what I wonder. I wonder, do they actually move Benavides over to special teams and bump Mark Washington to defensive coordinator? I just wonder. I don't know. Or is there just somebody in-house who's going to do that? It's not going to be Buck Pierce. Oftentimes when something like this happens with a special teams coach, the HC does it. Buck's a former quarterback. Buck's calling plays. He's not running special teams for them. So I'm not sure what you do. I'm not sure what you bring in. But McDermott's been around the league forever. To fire him after 3-4 games is just absurd.
They still have a game to play this week, whether or not you let go of your special teams coordinator. So what do you think happens with the kicking game now?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Like, I honestly wonder, and I'm not there. I'd love to know who's running those periods at practice. I'm not sure. So, kickoff return, punt return. Are you still running the same stuff? Probably. You might add a wrinkle or two here and there, but you can't reinvent the wheel in a week.
Definitely takes time. Oh, that's going to be an interesting one to watch for the second game in Kelowna. But yeah. Okay, Elks. Holy smokes. 3-0. Only CFL unbeaten team. If you told me this is how they would have started their season, late, let's say in November, I would have called you an absolute liar, Arash. What has been the biggest reason for this Elks turnaround? Because holy smokes, no one expected this.
Yeah, no one expected this. If you'd have told me at the start of the season who's the first coach to go, I would have said the seat is hottest for Mark Killam, because it wasn't Ed Hervey's decision to hire Mark Killam. It was Chris Morris's decision. The Elks late in the offseason hire Rick Campbell for really a role that doesn't exist. So if I'm Mark Killam, I'm kind of looking over my shoulder being like, wait a minute here. Are they bringing in my successor? And what have they done? They've just won ball games. And obviously Fajardo has just been such a big part of this. But Teagan, like, you're watching the same games I am. They're playing such clean football. They're taking advantage of any opportunity that comes their way. Think about that Winnipeg game last week. You jump out to a quick lead on the road, then Winnipeg starts to find its sea legs. They're in the red zone, fumble, immediately it's an Edmonton defender that jumps on it, takeaways. These are the things that lead to winning football. It's funny, we spent all this time talking about special teams coaches. Mark Killam's pretty well his entire career, other than being a strength coach, was being a special teams coach. He has touched every part of the roster other than quarterback in a previous life. So he knows the skill set of every single player on the roster. He's a high energy guy, and obviously it has paid off, and Ed Hervey will never admit it, but Mark Killam's done more than just save his job here in the opening month of the season.
We're still early, but man, that West Division is shaping up to look a little bit different this year, isn't it?
As long as Cody keeps balling.
Yeah.
And he has. And he has, and there's nothing to suggest that he won't. But to me, I always hated the season starts on Labor Day thing. But as long as everyone kind of stays in the hunt, it actually might be the case this year. I think Winnipeg's going to have a lot of problems staying in the hunt. They just look scattered. I wouldn't go as far as dysfunctional yet, but they're kind of teetering on it.
Yeah. Again, still early in the season, so don't come at us, Bomber fans. We're fine, okay?
Or come at us. Who cares?
Okay, well, if you want to, sure. 306-936-6262.
Ask Curtis about Jeffrey in the chat. Jeffrey in Calgary's gone silent on us, hasn't he, Curtis?
No, now he's John Doe, Arash. He started a burner account, and now he's trolling us on there.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was Sharky.
I guess we'll find out on Thursday. It might be.
There you go.
Okay, touchdown Kelowna real quick here before we pivot on to some soccer talk. Touchdown Kelowna, that looked incredible on TV. I wasn't there, obviously, so I can't speak to, the game day experience there or anything like that. But it seemed to be a successful showcase for the CFL, and there's been a lot of online chatter about, this is so ridiculous, but, we need a team in Kelowna now. We need a team in Kelowna. We were able to fill 19,000 strong. That is so unrealistic, but from your professional standpoint, it's a fun idea to kick around, but what do you think about the logistics of actually getting a 10th team in this league?
Remember Mike Tomlin? We were to call him now the former head coach of the Steelers.
Yeah.
A reporter once asked him about the opening at the University of Pittsburgh, just down the street. And Tomlin looked at the reporter and he said, in this business, you're taught never say never, but never. It's just not happening. Okay, let's just put that to bed. Now, that said, incredible congratulations to Amar Doman. Incredible congratulations to the entire BC Lions organization, because they looked at this year, this season, this summer, being booted out of their stadium and viewed it as an opportunity to grow their brand, to grow football across the province, to go somewhere and really connect with an audience that may not have touched it before, may not have been familiar with it before. They're losing a lot of money, Teagan, by doing this. But they view the long term of this and say, this matters. What's impressed me so much about Doman since he's taken over as owner is that these aren't the Lower Mainland Lions. They're not the Vancouver Lions. They're the British Columbia Lions, and he continues to show it. And it's great that people came out. But it's a novelty. It's a 9-10-day football festival. You don't have enough corporate dollars. You don't have a real stadium. You don't have all the necessities. And it all comes back, of course, it's not just stadium, but is that entire region ready to do it? So it's the answer is no, but that doesn't take away from what this is, what it's been, and what it's going to be this weekend too.
Amar Doman has not been shy about opening up the pocketbook. I mean, you even look at their home openers. They've had, artists like Snoop Dogg come in for just a concert at a football game. And it's quite a stark contrast when you compare it to the Toronto Argonauts and MLSE, who decided to opt out and have their home games on the road in places like Saskatchewan.
Amar Doman wants to win. Amar Doman wants to grow his business. Amar Doman is committed to Canadian football. And here are the contrasts. You said it well, Teagan. There's one organization that does it one way, and there's one organization that does it the other. And when you look at it, good ownership wins. And firing of Corey McDermott notwithstanding, there's been a lot of winning on the business side of the operation for the BC Lions lately.
I'm getting the signal from our boy here, Curtis. Backgammon, I'm told to call him now. So just real quick here before I let you go, Arash, I know we wanted to get to some Blue Jays talk and some other things here, but I just kind of wanted to get your take on what you saw last night. FIFA World Cup, of course, Canada already in Houston. They're preparing for that game in the round of 16 against Morocco. What are you looking for on Saturday?
Well, look, Morocco won, got to the semifinals 4 years ago in Qatar at the World Cup in 2022. They beat Canada in the group stage to get there. This is a quality team. It's been a quality program for a while. It's interesting, Teagan. Population of Morocco, approx 39 million. Population of Canada, approx. But as a country, they've made it a priority to make their national soccer program make it legit. And one of the key pieces of that team is their goalkeeper, Yassine Bono. Everyone just calls him Bono. I mean, this is a dude born in Montreal and had a choice about, 10, 12 years ago when Benito Floro was the coach of the Canadian national team. Floro reached out to Bono and said, look, you haven't played an international game yet. You had a choice. What do you want to do? But the goalkeeper, they moved to Morocco when he was 3. He always dreamed of playing for the Atlas Lions. So Max Crepeau's been solid for Canada through this World Cup, but you're going up against a quality side that's been there, done that, and has everything backing them. It's not quite David versus Goliath, but it's kind of close.
Well, I'm excited for Saturday, Arash. I could sit here and chop it up with you for another hour, but we do have to take a break. So I appreciate your time, as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Teagan, it's been awesome. Thanks.
We'll talk again soon. Arash Madani on Coast to Coast, joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline Tuesdays on the Sports Cage, brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together for 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. As I mentioned, we do have to take a quick break, and we will be right back. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.
It's time for the Sports Ticker, brought to you by Reliance Heath Water Heater Rentals. Rent a water heater and water softener starting at about $1.20 a day and get $400 when you switch to Reliance Heath.
In the Western Canadian Baseball League tonight, you got the Beavers at the Energy City Cactus Rats, which is just such a great name. I love it. Brooks Bombers taking on the Saskatoon Berries in the Bridge City. Medicine Hat Mavericks in Moose Jaw taking on the Miller Express. The Red Sox are off tonight. They got a doubleheader for Canada Day tomorrow. Canadian Elite Baseball League, you got the Saskatoon Mambas taking on the Winnipeg Sea Bears. Major League Baseball, Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Mets in Game 2 of their 3-game set. First pitch just after 5 o'clock. Gosman taking on McLean when it comes to the mound. Vladdy is also going to be out tonight. It was reported that he is dealing with some back tightness. Also, World Cup of Soccer, we now know Canada taking on Morocco this Saturday in Houston in the round of 16. And then still happening today, you have Mexico, Ecuador, 7 o'clock. And then we also still have this ongoing match between France and Sweden. France is up 1-0. Just about at half here, I do believe. And then Kawhi Leonard might be coming back to Canada. That was a report coming out regarding a trade between the Toronto Raptors and Los Angeles Clippers. That is a look at your sports ticker, brought to you by Reliance Heath. We'll be back in a second here. News is next on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. It's Teagan Witko here with Backgammon, as I'm told, or Curtis Gammon. He's the one keeping us on the air at 620 CKRM. On the stream as well, sportscage.com, as well as our YouTube, our X account as well. You can join in the conversation on the YouTube stream. And text us on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. Prairie Land Rentals, from small power tools to skid steers. They probably have what you need. Deal with the owner at 600 Albert Street. Got a little carried away with Arash Madani. Didn't even have a chance to ask him all that I wanted to talk about today. But if you want to go back and listen to it in podcast form, you always can Just wherever you find your podcasts. We had him last hour, and we still have Glen Suitor coming up a little bit later on this hour. We will have a little check-in with a golf course here in Saskatchewan that if you haven't checked out before, you definitely need to. So we'll have that conversation coming up later, and then your clutch performer as well. But in the meantime, we do want to head out on the Western Pizza guest hotline here pretty quickly because it might only be Tuesday, but tomorrow's a stat holiday, and that's technically midweek, but we're going to do it a day early anyway. It's the midweek sound-off with Scott Schultz.
The Midweek Sound Off, powered by Revive Men's Health Clinic. Treatment for men's ED without pills or surgery. Discreet and confidential. Visit revivemd.com. Lakeview Insurance. Get a second opinion on your coverage with Scott Schultz and his team. Protecting what you built.
Yeah, it's for Lakeview Insurance and Gentle Procedures, Revive Men's Health Clinic. Well, thanks for doing this a day early, Scott. Are you going to be celebrating Canada Day tomorrow?
Absolutely, but I'll be celebrating by myself. My wife and kids have started the early pilgrimage down to the United States to North Dakota for the 4th of July. As my wife, we met at the University of North Dakota, so all of her family and stuff is down there, so we tend to go down there for the holiday.
Oh, cool. Well, so you're going to be setting off fireworks in your backyard just solo then?
Well, I wouldn't outlaw that either. I like to have fun. I like to blow things up. I mean, I'm a wild and crazy guy. You just never know.
You work in insurance. You're probably fine.
That's right.
Well, Scott, let's get to it. Let's talk a little bit of CFL here. We got to start with a team that you know very well in the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Obviously, they suffered their first loss of the season just this past Friday at Mosaic Stadium. You know, every team says that you can learn more from a loss than you can a win. Is that true, or is that just something players tell us after a rough night?
I think it's pretty much true. I mean, anytime you have any kind of failure in life, if you look at the failures and can kind of see where things broke down and recognize things that you could have done differently, it always gives you that opportunity. But, you know, for me, Teagan, I'm less interested in the fact that they lost to Toronto than I am on how are they going to respond to Ottawa, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Good teams don't avoid that adversity. They answer it, and so we're going to see what they answer.
They still put up 34 points, despite it being a 40-34 loss, right? It felt like they left a lot out there. Now, as a guy who's been on the field there, how do you get back into the groove after suffering a loss like that when you feel like, especially if you're the offense, you know, you put so much out there?
Well, it's a culture and a mentality type of thing. You know, when you get to the guys in the locker room and you really focus down on it. When you score 34 points, if you put up 34 points in the CFL, you expect to win. I think the offense did enough, and it's just really about that mentality, getting back to this idea. I know when I played, one of the big prevailing ideas on defense was we didn't really care about outcomes on offense. Our focus was how many times could we put the ball back in the offense's hand? Because, you know, by and large, they're the only ones that are scoring the points, other than, you know, pick sixes and those kinds of things. So the mentality was every time you went back out on the field is let's get the ball back for the offense and let's just keep giving them the ball back and everything will take care of itself. And I think, you know, with this kind of a championship roster that they've got and what they're coming off of, we're getting into the throes of the regular season. And I think you're going to start seeing that stuff start to level out.
You know, before we get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty here, we do need to focus on the positive, Scott. I know that you're from Moose Jaw. Represent. I'm also from Moose Jaw, so I had to bring that up. But you're a Sasky guy. And when you watch a guy like Daniel Wiebe score his first career touchdown with his hometown team, you know, he played there with the U of S in the Vanier Cup in 2025. He gets to return dressing for his first game with the Riders and scoring, like taking it to the house like that, had to have been a pretty special moment, not only for him, but also as someone like yourself who's kind of been in those scenarios and watched those things unfold.
100%. I mean, typically, if I don't go to the games, I'm listening on the radio to Luke and the gang. And I can tell you I was listening, and my face, I was smiling ear to ear wider. I was smiling wider than a butcher's dog. I was so happy. And it just gives you such good feelings. You know, the guy's a local guy from the province. Like myself, I was a kid that, you know, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I knew about the Rough Riders. And when I embarked on a serious football career in high school, that's all I could think about. And to see more Saskatchewan kids get get their opportunities for that, and to take it to the house and have the biggest play you can have is a scoring play. I was real happy for Weeb, really excited for him for sure.
Weeb did get more opportunities in that game Friday night at Mosaic Stadium as a result of, some injuries. He was returning some punts there after James Letcher Jr. goes down. Sam Emelis then goes in to return some of those punts. And then Daniel Weeb, was kind of there in the backfield. So obviously Samuel Emelis is a big piece of this offense. How much does losing your top playmaker in Samuel Emelis, what does that change with the team offensively? Because a lot of people feel like that's a huge hit.
Well, it is, and on an unprepared team, a team that doesn't have experience, it can shake you. It can shake the foundation of your club. But you look at the Roughriders' experience, you look at what they've come through and what they've built. They've managed, like every team manages injuries and the like. But again, you lean on that history, you lean on that experience coming off of a Grey Cup championship season. I think our team is well-heeled to manage that. And I'm not saying it's not going to have a factor. It will have a factor. But the patience and calm that the coaching staff and the veterans have will be able to transition and get through any rough times.
How did you feel about the decision to have Sam Emelis back there making those returns? The pedestrian, the guy that's been a fan now for 20 years after his career, you kind of think, wow, why the heck are they doing that? But I always defer to the coaching staff. It's their game plan. They know their players. They know the needs. There could have been injuries. There could have been this, that, or the other. There was a reason why they had him back there, and they thought he could make an impact. And we wouldn't be talking about this if he would have turned that into a huge play and scored or gotten great field position, right? Well, yeah. I say it all the time. It's easy for me to be sitting on my couch, dusting the Cheeto crumbs off my chest saying, oh, that was a terrible play call. I'm not in the thick of it, right?
Well, plus, what do I know? I'm a nose guard. I know about the A-gaps, and that's just about it.
Well, how about when it comes to special teams? Maybe you can give me some insight on this. 2 weeks in a row giving up a return touchdown. Is that just bad luck, or do you think that that's something that the Riders really need to hone in on and clean up?
At this point, let's just say it's bad luck. 3 times a charm, 3 times a habit. So let's look at that. I know for a fact that big leverage plays like that kind of flip the table and cause real trouble in games, that will be a focus point. That'll be a point for them that they will focus on, that they will not want to give up any more touchdowns on special teams. And I guarantee you that alone, just because it's such a huge part of the game, no one thinks about specials until it makes an impact, and then it's a huge impact. So I guarantee you the attention will be there, and they'll be doing their level best not to let that happen.
Oh, absolutely. Special teams in the 3-down league. That's huge, right? It's one of the third biggest assets in the function here. So the one thing I will say, I don't know if you were listening earlier, but we had some clips from head coach Corey Mace after practice today. And the one thing I will say about him, whether you're a Rider fan or not, he is an even-keeled coach. How important is that as a player coming off your first loss of the season?
Huge. And again, where does it take us, right? It takes us back to the experience. It takes us back to the calm. It takes us back to the roster that's been built there. Corey Mace's identity will be tested. His teams have been disciplined and physical, and all I can say is expect a sharper defensive performance against Ottawa. Again, you don't want to make excuses. Everyone who lines up on the field is ready to go. But there are some injuries on defense there that they're working through. The defensive backfield is doing a great job of communicating and try to get through that. And we just need to get a handle on those mid-game explosive plays and busts.
So as we turn the page onto Ottawa now, looking forward, Ottawa is still looking for their first win of the season. Is that a dangerous type of opponent because they are so desperate?
Big time. It's the old adage, if you back any animal into a corner, be prepared. They're going to defend themselves. A little bit of that Neanderthal mindset might kick in. But the thing of it is, we've got to go in there and respond. I mean, we've got to take the crowd out of it early and fast on the road, and that's with big plays on offense and stops on defense and all the rest of it. So if we protect the football, I think if Saskatchewan wins the turnover battle, they're the better football team, and I think we should win.
When you look at Ottawa's roster, a lot of 2025 riders that have made the transition, out east. Does that play a factor at all, especially with a guy like Jake Maier, who is now getting his opportunity as a starter when he was the backup to Trevor Harris for a couple of seasons here?
Right. I mean, there's a few guys in there that are notable that are, can make an impact, but let's also, there's lots of guys that aren't on this team for a reason, whether they didn't fit in, whatever it was, they didn't make this roster. Right. And so, it's a little 6 of one, half a dozen of another, but I think those guys out there, the worst thing, teams think, hey, we're going to get these new guys and it's going to breathe life into our organization. But I've seen it happen over time where you get veterans that have been on a team for 4, 5, 6 years, have some stability. They make that switch. They go to a new team. Now the system's new. The language is new. The scenery is new. Everything's new, and you're a little out of sorts. So, Ottawa is one of those teams that needs wholesale change, and I think it's going to be a little slower burn for their recovery.
So let's take you back a little bit here, Scott. Let's say you're with this current organization, or even back in your own playing days, let's say. Who was the guy in your locker room that would break the tension going into a situation like this? You're coming off your first loss of the season. You're hungry. You're going in there. You're facing a bunch of your former teammates. You want to get that W. Who always knew what to say?
I had a very good luxury. Like in my primetime years, when I was a young guy kind of transferring into a veteran, we already had some very seasoned veterans and guys that were maybe in the fall or winter of their careers that were unbelievable. And I'm talking about guys like Gene Makowski, Eddie Davis, Jeremy O'Day. Those guys took on the heavy lifting for the inspirational, carrying out the coach's wishes and being great leaders. Then there's that kind of a middle tier of guys like me and guys like Luke and the McCulloughs of the world and the Hugheses, where we could just be young guys and have fun and act right and do the darn thing. And so, there's lots of times when there's, you can point to a guy like Makowski who doesn't say something. If he says something, it's impactful. Jeremy, and Eddie, the consummate professional captains. But a lot of times it was, a guy like me, you get in a fight in practice with somebody and break because there's tension and stuff, or someone else like Andy Fantuz and Scotty Gordon are having the World Ping Pong Championship contest for who's the champion of the locker room, and the whole team gets involved. So those kinds of things spring up from all corners of the locker room, and they're all welcomed.
Oh man, it kind of makes me wish that we had social media as it was, back in the day.
I would be in so much trouble. I would have been one of those early cancel guys because I would have went full sail early and hard.
See, but you're just talking about ping pong championships. It's fine, right? We got a peek inside the locker room nowadays.
So you've been around the organization enough. There's an old sales guy up in the office named Kevin Clive. You remember old Cliver?
Oh, yeah.
So you talk about that, and then so the World Ping Pong Championship is being contested. We've got a belt. We've got everything going on. It's Scott Gordon. It's versus Andy Fantuz. Well, you want to talk about tension and breaking the tension and getting the guys riled up. Well, somebody streaked the ping pong game in nothing but his ankle tape in order to turn the tide for our friend Scott Gordon to win the championship. So, like I said, it's fun, it's exciting, and it happens from all corners of the locker room.
Somebody. I'm never going to get that name out of you, am I?
The best was when it happened. The best part was Clive was recording this whole thing, right? He's watching the thing, and then when the said pink blur of streaking happened, he did the TSN when he looks up into the upper bounds, and he's only got the upper lockers showing. So it was pretty
divert.
classic. It was the best.
Oh, maybe I can bribe him to get that name out of him one of these days. We'll see. Okay, I want to ask you real quick about our SportsCage CFL rankings. We have a new flight of these out, Scott. Power rankings have number 1 Montreal, Edmonton, all the way up to number 2, and then the Riders are tied for 3rd after just their first loss of the season. Do you agree with a little bit of the shakeup that we're seeing here? Or maybe call us out. Are we overreacting after 1 week of football?
No, I think it's, early like this, it's fun. It's fun to watch, and it's fun to jockey, and things are going to shake out, once we get closer to mid-season. But I don't mind that. I mean, you look at, we're the defending champs. We got 1 loss. There's some undefeateds out there. I don't have a problem with the list right now.
Okay, I like it. We have the stamp of approval from Scott Schultz. Even better. Let's talk quickly about the Elks, though. 3-0 to start the season. I think they're for real. No one was anticipating that they'd be off to this, hot start right now. Do you think they can maintain it? Like, how are you feeling about this organization as a whole right now?
Yeah, in past years with guys like, who's the coach there? Chris Jones. Herky-jerky, up and down. You see what's happening now, new coach. They're starting to slowly climb back. They've got some leadership and a great quarterback out there, a guy that we've had some experience with, he seems to have leveled himself out a little bit as well. And so, I think the success they're having is warranted. And, the magic for everyone is like, hey, how can you maintain it? I mean, Father Time is undefeated, so let's see what happens and if they can stand up to the injury deluge that always hits every team as we approach midseason.
And then one more quick one here, because I know I'm taking up far too much of your time already, and you're so gracious with your time, Scott. We didn't necessarily have the biggest turnout in Friday here in Regina at Mosaic Stadium. Technically, and it was an away game for the Argos, or an away game for the Riders and a home game for the Argos. Anyway, it's right after school broke, summer holidays, but you got to give a little credit where the credit is due. The Bombers with 16 straight sellouts. What is the recipe for success over there with their turnouts?
Well, I think it's just, success breeds interest, right? And so we know how that goes. There's been such a drought for the Riders, up until that 2007, and then we get to 13, and then another huge drought, and then we get 2025. So I think, things are starting to come back around, and we've seen those ebbs and flows with attendance. But, I'm Winnipeg, very Winnipeg-ish, haven't had a lot of success until recently with their Grey Cup championships. So that's the injection that fan base needed to wake back up. And I think they're still in the early bits of that because, with the Riders, we've rolled that wave for quite a much longer time. But what I will say too is, like it or not, with technology, you named all the things that would keep people out of a physical place in the stands. But the game is evolving to that spot where, hey, if we can't make the game, we are going to get it on streaming, or we're gonna have an account that we log into or whatever. So, keep a tabs on that. Obviously, we'd love to have as many people out screaming and being a concern at the stadium. But I think the CFL is starting to grow, and it's the first 3-4 weeks have been very exciting.
Well, and I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out yet, Scott, but the tailgating, have you walked through there yet? Have you had a chance?
I haven't. That's the one thing. I've been busy. The first game I couldn't get to it, but I definitely am going to waddle on down there and see what's doing.
Waddle on down there. Come on. It's a very, very cool experience. You definitely need to check it out when you get an opportunity. And maybe we'll see you down there before a game.
Is it as in the States?
Not quite yet. Give it a couple years. It's only their first season.
We're building.
They do also have a beer garden in there. So you can walk through the tailgating, see a bunch of people, steal the dog or two, glizzy, whatever you want to call it, and then go grab yourself a beer.
I love it.
It's great.
Sounds like my kind of pace.
Well, maybe we'll catch you down there next Sunday, Scott.
Very good.
Awesome. I appreciate the time, as always. Thanks for doing this.
Beautiful. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.
Sounds like a plan, buddy. Enjoy your 4th of July celebrations down in the States as well. Scott Schultz joining us for the midweek sound off, which is brought to you by Lakeview Insurance. Get a second opinion on your coverage with Scott Schultz and his team, protecting what you've built. It is also brought to you by Gentle Procedures and Revive Men's Health Clinic. Treatment for men's ED without pills, surgery, discreet and confidential. Visit revivemd.com. I should probably be able to speak and spell it out for you so you can get the website right. revivemd.com. He was joining us, of course, on the Western Pizza guest hotline, as he always does. Normally, he's on Wednesdays with Barney, but because of the stat holiday tomorrow, he joined us a day early, and we appreciate that. The Western Pizza guest hotline, of course, for Western Pizza. Perfect pizza, generous amount of toppings, all the Greek favorites you love. And right now, we also want you to play along. Pick the score, okay? This is where you text us, 306-936-6262. Prairie Land Rentals text line. You can let us know what you think the final score of this Riders game will be in Ottawa when they travel there on Friday. Okay, what do you think the final result will be? Send us that prediction and your name. 306-936-6262. I guess I should tell you what you can win. A $200 SaskTel gift card in addition to tickets to the next Rider home game so that you, like myself, can try to track down Scott Schultz in the tailgating area. So again, 306-936-6262. Pick the score. Who's winning? The 2-1 Riders, the 0-3 Red Blacks. Chance to win $200 for SaskTel and free tickets to the next Rider home game. 306-936-6262. We'll take a quick break because we got to get to your clutch performer here shortly. That's going to be coming up. It's the Sports Cage, and it's on the home of Rider Nation, 620 CKRM, and streaming at sportscage.com.
The Sports Cage Clutch Performer for Keln Solar. Thinking about saving money by using solar power? Keln Solar is a local family company that can put solar panels on your home, business, or farm. KelnSolar.com.
We have a couple of clutches and a singular unclutch to get to today. Brought to you by Keln Solar, installing solar in residential and commercial buildings, 35 years and counting, local and trusted. Keln Solar, visit KelnSolar.com. So my first one here, I don't like necessarily giving free plugs, but I feel like this one, they've earned it. Canadian Tire in Ottawa had some very special merchandise on the shelves. It says, okay, so if you aren't watching the stream right now, there's a bunch of Kachuk jerseys. It looks like there's some other memorabilia like socks and chains and stuff like that. And the tag reads, unlike Brady, we are still committed to Ottawa. That's pretty clutch. It's pretty catty, but I still like it. Yeah, unlike Brady. And they have all these Kachuk jerseys. They don't even have them on clearance? How did I just realize that? They should have really had those marked down. Whatever. The tag was good enough. Clutch. Our next clutch performer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Last night at Rogers Centre, it was, of course, his return to Rogers Centre. First time since joining the Mets after last season. So there was one moment at the beginning of the game, you can see Vladdy gesturing to his hat, telling Bo to take off his helmet and salute the crowd. And this was before his first at-bat at Rogers Centre yesterday, which was pretty cool. And you could just see Bo's big smiling face as he tips his cap to the crew at Rogers Centre and the entire crowd there. There was a couple of standing ovations for Bo last night. That was pretty cool to see. Sensational stuff. Clutch. I like to see it. I mean, as much as no one wanted to see Bichette go to New York, I mean, it is what it is. This is sports. These things happen. Players move. But it was pretty cool to see the two of them converse. By the way, I should also quickly mention here, Vladdy is apparently not playing in the second game against the Mets tonight due to back tightness. But we'll get to more of the updates that you need in the realm of sports with your ticker in just a little bit here. I do have another clutch, Curtis. Mm-hmm. And I want to give a tip of my own cap to the Mexican fans who really showed up and showed out for their team. They brought drums. They were setting off fireworks. They were honking car horns, all allegedly outside of Ecuador's team hotel because they wanted to keep the players awake all night. You could call that one clutch or unclutch, I guess, depending on who you're cheering for.
You know what? As someone that's had a big game and wanted like a nice rest beforehand, and you just want somewhere nice to lay your head and get ready for a big game the next day, I'm going to say unclutch for that one. Like, disrespectful, man.
Well, I mean, we'll see if it even bears any fruit tonight, because 7 o'clock local time, I do believe, is when we see those two teams go head-to-head in Ecuador and Mexico. So we'll see if it even made a difference or an impact. Here's the thing. These are professional football or soccer players, or whatever you want to call them. They probably have earplugs. You're going to anticipate this if you're going to be traveling on the road, are you not?
I don't know.
You gave me a look like, no.
Like, to be honest, I would say no, unless, like, how often do you hear of fans being disruptive?
It happens from time to time. I mean, I just feel like when it comes to this level of sport, fans get pretty passionate. But we'll see if it has any impact. Again, Mexico, Ecuador, 7 o'clock tonight in the World Cup. Okay, so that was a clutch/unclutch. You know what? I appreciate the passion, Curtis. That's where that clutch was coming from. Now for my unclutch, we're going to go back a little bit here to that Mets-Jays game last night. Not exactly the prettiest play that we saw. Again, if you're watching the stream here, we'll put it up for you. I don't know if you're going to see this again in a long time. Juan Soto allowed an inside the park little league home run. And it's so painful to watch. If you didn't see highlights of this, if you aren't watching the stream right now, essentially it was the most Bush League play that you could have had in the outfield. And again, it's easy for me to say. I was saying it to Scott Schultz earlier. It's easy for me to sit here and dust, crumbs off my chest on my couch as I'm watching. It's another thing to actually be in the outfield trying to catch that ball. Unclutch, though.
Yeah, it's always a little bit painful to see those
bounces off his knee, the outfielder's knee, and painful to watch as a baseball fan. Unclutch. That's what we're gonna go with today. You have any to add?
No. I'm just along for the ride today. I didn't bring anything additional for the show. I'm a team player. Unclutch.
You know what? No, that is pretty clutch. You do enough for this show. We appreciate it. Backgammon. Which now I'm using liberally because someone texted in saying Barty always calls you backgammon, so now you're stuck with it.
Yeah, I don't know if he always calls me it. He just one day he's like, I'm going to call you backgammon. I say, oh, okay. It always started with when Colson and I were both doing the show. Call a CNC
Music Factory?
No, a CNC Productions.
Oh, how dare I.
And then eventually it turned into the double C's.
Mm-hmm.
And then
if you're Luke Mullender, C1 and C2.
C1, C2.
Mm-hmm.
So
we won't say who's C1 and who's C2.
Not a competition, I guess. We're just co-workers.
Yeah, no, we're all on the same team here. Those were your clutch performers, brought to you by Keln Solar. They can help you with your livestock operations. Book now for your solar quotes for your home, your farm, your cabin. Save money with the local company, Keln Solar in Lumsden. Should also quickly mention here, Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation 50/50 talk sheet. Lots of exclusive getaways and experiences that you can win just by getting in on the 50/50. So not only are you in for the grand prize jackpot, which I will look up next hour and tell you how much is in there, but there's also a chance to win an early bird prize every single rider game. Variety of different ticket packages that you can buy as well. You can also just kind of set yourself up for the subscription, essentially, so you don't have to worry about it every week. You're already in. Easy. I like that because I can be lazy with this stuff. Labor Day game package for 2. That's what's on the line if you buy before Thursday at 10 p.m. So it's 1 night in a hotel here in Regina, 2 custom rider jerseys, 2 gold tickets to the Labor Day Classic, Sunday, September the 6th, and then 3 winners will be drawn who gets to win this. So 3 winners will be walking away with that game day package, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, especially if you're coming from out of town. That's the beauty of having the Labor Day Classic game on the Sunday of the long weekend. Mm-hmm. So if you are coming from rural Saskatchewan, maybe Saskatoon or Wadena, wherever you happen to be coming from, if you're going to spend the night here anyway, you don't have to rush back and get there in time for work, which is always fantastic. Yeah. Riders5050.ca.
And Labor Day last year was electric. I will say that. It was
incredible.
It was definitely one of the you had to be there games here. I am such a smart guy. I have all my stuff from last year. Look at the crowd there.
If you're watching the stream right now, that is a packed Mosaic Stadium. And again, it's lovely having those Sunday games during a long weekend because more people have the opportunity to do the lengthy travel, right? I know so many fans that come in, they hang out with us in the SportsCage lounge, and they drive in essentially every week from Calgary. and they're coming all decked out in their Rider green. It's so cool to see. And that was a heck of a game too, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, it came down to, I'm trying to remember. Oh man, I have all the highlights here. I'm just going to read all the what happened that game. Oh, that was the one that Mario Anderson had 2 touchdowns. It was his debut. No, Anderson.
Oh, it was Anderson.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns in his debut.
Oh, no, I'm thinking about that road game where Alfred had that huge return.
Yeah, that was the Toronto game. That was one of the first weeks.
Yeah, that was early on in the season.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, electric, incredible experience. If you have a chance to get tickets to the Labor Day Classic, do it.
The Labor Day Classic, I remember. It was the pick 2 from Tavon Campbell to end things. Mm-hmm. It was the play. You suddenly just heard the whole stadium. How many yards was that? The pick 2?
Yeah.
It was the whole way. I think it was like 100 yards.
I'm trying to remember just how many. Yeah, pick 2 reception, 112 yards. Pick 2 Labor Day Classic against the Bombers late into that game too. I remember that was such an incredible moment.
And yeah, and hearing the crowd pop too, it was had to be there kind of moment.
Yeah, beating the Blue Bombers 34-30, and that was the 60th. Yeah, I remember that crowd absolutely erupting. It's really hard to beat that atmosphere. So get your tickets for the Labor Day Classic if you can, or even better yet, just get in on this Rider Foundation 50/50. Maybe you'll get that exclusive experience. Should be a lot of fun. Also, when you talk about, okay, just real quick here before we have to take a break. Touchdown Kelowna also looked like a pretty awesome experience. 19,000 plus people in attendance for that, but not everybody was happy, Curtis. I don't know if you heard about this, but apparently some seniors, some of those who are a little bit older, they were raising concerns after being required to show identification before being served alcohol. Even though, in their words, not mine, I'm not here to ID people. I do have serve it right, so I could. But they were getting angry about the fact that they were like, well, we're well past legal drinking age. Why are you IDing us? So these are fans in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, asked for ID to get wristbands because they had a strict verification process. And they were complaining about it essentially online because they said it was unnecessary and frustrating.
Yeah, a pro surf thing, it's interesting. Like, even if someone is very clearly over age, like if
isn't it 30? If you look under the age of 30, then you have to be identified.
Yeah, but even if you sell someone alcohol without an ID, period, like if there's an inspection that comes in, like you can lose your liquor license, even if clearly there's like gray hair, old enough to drink. So I don't really. I try not to judge people.
Sympathy.
Yeah, for doing their jobs. Like,
zero sympathy.
If it's my livelihood on the line, like I'm gonna do what I need to do. You know.
Not to mention, you're also looking at this facility that normally doesn't house this many people. How many people do they typically have in that venue? It's only a couple thousand, if I remember correctly. They had to put in a bunch of extra seating and stands and infrastructure, and you have a lot of people there who have invested a ton of money, and the last thing they want to do is get sued because you served alcohol to someone who you didn't identify. You didn't identify.
Yeah, it's a 100% liability thing. To get the band, you have to get an ID. The band means your ID's been checked. It's not an age thing. It's just a checking an ID thing.
And honestly, I'm at that point in my life where I'll admit it. I'm in my 30s, low 30s. We don't need to get specific about how old. But when I get carded, I take it as a compliment. Anytime I get ID'd, I find myself thanking the person. Oh, I look under the age of 35. Thank you so much.
I felt that it was probably a couple months ago, but I got ID'd and I was like, oh, I'm kind of happy I got ID'd because the last handful of times I went, I wasn't getting ID'd anymore. And I was like, oh no. Can people just like see the lifeless eyes and just like how like life is just like sucked all the joy out, and it's like, oh, this guy doesn't need to get
Curtis,
ID.
I'm not saying that you look old or anything, but I am saying radio can suck the life out of you, so be careful.
Happens. That's just showbiz, baby.
Oh,
jazz hands.
Put away the jazz hands. Put away the jazz hands. Maybe we'll get to a little bit more of that Rider audio here in just a bit. But I should also clarify the biggest first world problem, but the people have spoken, and apparently for the second game in Kelowna, they will now only be worrying about identifying people who look under the age of 35. So the club apologized for the inconvenience and says it will continue, quote, refining operations based on the fan experience. If that's the biggest issue that you have, you're fine.
Inconvenience, pulling out your wallet and showing your ID. Like, most people have their driver's license on them. Like, you telling me you drove here or whatever and you didn't even bring your license? Or what? Or if you took an Uber, you're being responsible if you're drinking. Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Be responsible if you're going to dabble. Make sure you're responsible. Glen did just say on the YouTube feed, they were complaining on the landline, so we're only hearing about it now.
Messenger pigeon every once in a while too.
Yeah, carrier pigeon. You got it. You got it. Okay, let's take a quick break. Let's come back. Let's get more updates from rider practice earlier today, and then we'll have that sports ticker, plus an update from Flowing Springs before we get to your news at 5 o'clock. So let's take a quick break, Curtis. We'll be right back. This is 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.
It's time for the Sports Ticker, brought to you by Extreme Hockey and Sport is the home of the Price Match Guarantee. 1425 McIntyre Street, the Cooperator Center, Moose Jaw Temple Garden Center, and online at extremehockey.net.
Western Canadian Baseball League action, the Weyburn Beavers at Energy City Cactus Rats. You got the Brooks Bombers taking on the Saskatoon Berries up in the Bridge City. Medicine Hat Mavericks in Moose Jaw taking on the Miller Express. The Red Sox are off tonight. They do have a doubleheader for Canada Day tomorrow. First game at 2, second game at 5 p.m. against the Swift Current 57s. Canadian Elite Basketball League, you got the Saskatoon Mambas in Winnipeg taking on the Sea Bears. Major League Baseball action. The Jays taking on the Mets in the second round of this set just after 5 o'clock. They will have first pitch. It's Gosman versus McLean. And of course, Vladdy is dealing with back tightness, so he will not be starting tonight. World Cup of Soccer, Canada versus Morocco, Saturday in Houston in the round of 16. Right now we got, France is up 3-0 against Sweden. Okay, so we'll keep you posted on that one. And then Mexico, Ecuador tonight at 7 o'clock. It looks like Kawhi Leonard is coming back to Canada as well. Toronto Raptors, Los Angeles Clippers reportedly closing in on a blockbuster deal that would send Kawhi Leonard back to Toronto in exchange for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and 2 second-round picks. That is a look at your sports ticker, which is brought to you by Extreme Hockey and Sport. Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage for Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports culture and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. We're going to check in with Flowing Springs here in just a little bit. First, we got to talk a little Riders. A little bit of an update here from our very own Dave Thomas, who was at practice earlier today at Mosaic Stadium. Receivers Sam Emelis, Kean Schaefer-Baker, Del Duncan Busby all back on the practice field today. Ali Saad did leave practice early after tweaking his calf from the sounds of things. Delan Jete and Ryder Varga also practicing as part of their ramp-up to coming off of the 6-game injured list. Now, as we take a little bit of a step back and look at the loss to the Toronto Argonauts at Mosaic Stadium this past Friday and starting to be, a little bit, starting to prepare just a little bit for this game in Ottawa on Friday afternoon. Kickoff is at 5:30. We did have a chance to catch up with Mike Rose, talking specifically about the defense and shuffling players in and out, preparing for this Red Blacks roster.
Mike Rose, I know that it rained a lot in Regina this weekend, but please tell Rider Nation the sky isn't falling after what happened against Toronto on Friday.
I mean, we lost 6 games last year. We still won championships, so I know it shouldn't be a problem.
Tell me about that game and your takeaways. Before we get into your individual effort, tell me about what you saw from your defense.
I mean, there were some positives, more negative than positive, you could say. But we just got to work better as a unit.
So tell me a little bit how that work comes about as a unit. Is that chemistry? Is that just practice? Is it time? How do you accelerate it if you need to accelerate it?
I mean, it's hard to win in football when you got guys in and out the roster, and it's, you feel for those guys who show up on Tuesday and got to play on Saturday or Friday, right? So, there's a give and take.
So obviously you want to build on some positives. What positives did you see that you can take away to build the foundation and start rising it again?
Jalen Pate was a positive. He was a boom for the D-line. Came in, played well. Ali showed up again, which is something we need, from the Canadian. So it's good to have those young guys really pushing forward.
Your 2 sacks, what did you see from your effort?
I'm just a guy.
You're just a guy, but you were a guy that was getting some pressure on Chad Kelly that threw him off his mark, which I know was talked about a lot leading in. When you see that, how can you repeat that?
I think I just gotta keep pushing. Like the goal, you can't get complacent. Every game's different. and you just got to keep pushing.
Going into last year, a lot was made about familiarity in the locker room, knowing what each other was going to do. This time, there's a lot of familiarity with the opponent, them knowing what you're going to do and you knowing what them going to do. Is there any advantage? Can you overplay that aspect at all?
See a little, see a lot, right? And all that means is if you know too much, you might do too much. All you need to do is focus on your keys and make your plays, and we'll be fine.
Sometimes I know Luke Mullender often talks about the things that he spots pre-snap. Those are the reads, those are the tells that he's looking at. Can you try to adjust those, or do you have to trust them? How do you, I guess, go ahead and tackle that challenge?
I mean, if we're all wrong, we're all right.
Yeah. That's right.
So essentially, if we're all doing the same thing, all striving to be where we're supposed to be, we could do the wrong thing. As long as we're all doing it together, we'll probably end up right.
Finally, momentum in a football game. You can feel that from where I sit, but I'm 10 miles away from you are and where you're on the field. Do you feel momentum in a game, and how can you change and affect that if you can feel it?
I think last year's team did a very good job of keeping momentum in our favor, and once this team figures that out, I think the sky's the limit.
And is that something you do or say, or both?
I mean, talking doesn't really get you anywhere. It's about doing.
Well, this week you get to do it in Ottawa. Thanks so much for this, Mike. Congrats on the 2-sack performance.
Thank you. Have a great day.
That is our very own Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders, catching up with Mike Rose ahead of this contest in Ottawa this Friday, 5:30. We'll have all the pregame show coverage for you. As always, 620 CKRM and SportsCage.com starting at 2:30. But right now it's time to head out on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Get our next guest here on the phone from Flowing Springs, Brian Raymond. Thanks for taking the time, Brian.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to talk to you.
Well, it's nice to officially get you on the phone here. You and I haven't had the opportunity to catch up before, and I have so many questions, but I know we only have so much time. Brian, let's start here. I'm not the best golfer. Why is Flowing Springs a good place for me to start, and do you have lessons?
We offer lessons. We also offer a fantastic driving range where folks can come out, and this is where the real learning takes place. When people get to the problem with playing on a golf course, if you haven't had a lot of experience, is you don't get to repeat those shots. You have to move on to the next shot. Whereas on the driving range, you can hit a bad shot and then do it over and over and over until you get it right in your own mind. And that's probably the best place to go when you're starting up. And certainly taking lessons is almost a requirement, because there are certain aspects of the game, particularly how to hold the club, how to swing the club properly, that pay dividends down the road.
And if I'm understanding correctly, when I took a peek at your website earlier, flowingspringsgolf.com, I can book stuff online, can't I?
Absolutely. You can contact us through the website easily. You can book tee times on the website. And, of course, if you want to book a tee time, one of the easiest ways, of course, is to just give us a call at 306-543-5050.
Now, one more question here that I do have to ask you, Brian. I know you're only about 15 minutes outside of Regina, but from what I've been told by people who frequent the golf course, it kind of feels like you're leaving the whole city behind. Is that kind of the major part of the appeal?
Well, there's no question. It's a very quiet place. There's no distractions like traffic or anything like that. It's one of the key things about our golf course is when you can't see it from the road because we're in a valley. There's a creek that runs through our golf course, and it plays an integral part into the way the golf course is played. But it's truly not your typical prairie golf course. It's got lots of elevation changes because it's in a valley, and it's very quiet. Lots of wildlife. It's a very nice, quiet place to play.
Ooh, sounds like a pretty good way to spend Canada Day. Are you guys still taking tee times for tomorrow?
We are taking tee times for tomorrow and for the week. We book us 7 days in advance. So for those who don't know, you have 7 days to book your tee time with us. And, yeah, absolutely. We'll be open tomorrow, and we're looking forward to a busy day.
Oh, love that. Okay, book your tee time, book your golf lessons. Maybe I'll see you out there and you can make fun of me as I do my best to learn. Thank you so much for this. flowingspringsgolf.com. Again, Brian Raymond, great to have you on the line.
That's my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. We'll catch up with Brian again here on the Sports Cage as the week progresses. We do need to take a quick break, though, because we got to get into your news. And then Glen Suitor is going to be coming up on the other side of 5 o'clock. So hang tight for that, okay? It's the Sports Cage. It's on the home of local sports, 620 CKRM, and streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back. Tuesday installment of the Sports Cage. It's for Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lotteries, their products, they fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm Teagan Witko. I'm joined by Backgammon, Curtis Gammon. He's our producer. He's keeping us on the air. 620 CKRM. He's shaking his head at me so hard right now. You know what? Someone on the text line told me that was your nickname.
I'm not shaking my head hard. It was like
hard enough, Curtis.
It was like a mild shake. It was just like a...
Coming from the guy who was given jazz hands off the start of the show.
Big jazz hands guy. Well,
okay.
It wasn't on my bingo list for Mace to mention jazz hands and
you never know
any
what's
kind of presser.
Going to come out of his mouth, though. I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Actually, you do. You know, like you could probably put a bingo sheet together of those pressers. When he says, "We got to be on,"
suggesting a Sports Cage bingo sheet?
We should make
of what
one.
He says in the post-game show.
Yeah. We got to be on our P's and Q's is definitely on the list.
Okay.
We'll workshop something.
Yeah. We'll get something figured out. Okay. If you have something to suggest, or if you just want to join in the conversation at any point, Prairie Land Rentals text line is 306-936-6262. Okay, if you missed out on anything so far in the show today, your midweek sound off, of course, we had the one and only Scott Schultz join us earlier in the day. We also had Arash Madani, Coast to Coast. He joined us in the 3 o'clock hour. You can always go back and listen to those conversations in podcast form. In the meantime, though, we got to jump out on the Western Pizza guest hotline one more time here. Perfect pizza, generous amount of toppings, all the Greek favorites you love, with the one and only Glen Suitor.
Time now for press coverage with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughrider legend Glen Suitor on the Sports Cage. Brought to you by Freeze Tallman Lumber, locally owned, family grown, rooted in our community for 70 years in Regina and Fort Capel.
I do believe Glen Suitor is joining us from beautiful Kelowna, maybe somewhere grape deep in a vineyard.
I wish it was, but it is wine country. So yes, it is some of the best in the world. And I have to admit, full disclosure, a little bit of tasting going on over the last 48 hours. But no, I'm just outside of Kelowna now. Got an extra day to do a little bit of homework first and some conference calls, and then maybe cast a line with a little fly fishing for about an hour tonight, if possible. But yeah, I'm going to stay up in Kelowna. Actually, the BC Lions did the same thing because they play again in the same stadium coming up against Edmonton, and so I thought, let's do the same thing. Stay up here. Hang out. I think it's a good thing, and something that the Lions need to do is to get on the same page and get to know each other a little bit better, and maybe that will change their fortunes as they move forward. They just can't afford to drop this next game. I mean, as far as regular season games go, this is a must-win game for them. I know must-win only means that if you don't, you're out and going home, but if there's a regular season this early in the year version, it's probably this one for the Lions.
Well, in Glen, we've noticed some of the struggles. Obviously, they've had some injuries early in the season. Don't think that's necessarily the entire excuse. And, it seems as though there's some people in that front office that agree with me because they just made some changes to their coaching staff. And, well, that major change being that they just got rid of Corey McDermott, who is their special teams coordinator. Were you surprised that they pulled the trigger this early?
No, not really. Not really. I guess surprised that it was him. I know there's a lot of people saying right now on social media that they fired the wrong guy. And as Mike Benavides, the defensive coordinator, has been on the hot seat for a long, long time. I'm going back to last year, and that defense certainly hasn't played very well over the first part of this season. So another tough outing for the defense, and then the special teams coordinator is fired. But if you step back and you look at the performance of the special teams, and maybe more specifically some of the mistakes made, then we probably shouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you go back to the first 2 games of the season, there were poor decisions made by returners. And in Saskatchewan, for instance, the Riders had a 3-point lead, and a field goal was missed, and the BC Lion returner, and it was a backup returner, but they need to be prepared, but the returner conceded a single, caught the ball, and then conceded a single. And the new rule is now, if that ball goes out and is not touched, then it's no points awarded, and you get it on the 40-yard line. So that was a huge swing, and that point, when you're going from a 3-point lead to a 4-point lead, is crucial. That is a massive mistake in, just managing your decisions before the ball's ever snapped. So there's been a couple of those errors early in the season on the special teams. And then I'm not sure if you saw the opening kickoff of the Calgary game here in Kelowna with the Lions, but the Lions kicked off Calgary kicked off, and the Lions kick return team was basically standing there. What the Stamps did was they pooched a kick about 30 yards down the field rather than kick it deep to a returner. They kicked it into an open area. Now, that was something they had to have seen on video prior to the game. This was a plan and a design, not a mistake. And the return team for the Lions stood there looking at it like they didn't know the rule. Now, that's a rule that has not changed, is not different in any sport, in any type of football, whether it's American football or Canadian. And that's a mistake that professionals just can't make. They were standing there. They didn't lose the ball. They ended up getting lucky and tapped it out last, so they got possession. But Calgary pooches the ball, and all the Lions stand there like they don't know the rule that if the ball passes 10 yards, it's live. Those are really simple, issues that the team has had on special teams and bad decisions made that are really fundamental. So that part of it is why I'm not surprised that they've made a change with Corey McDermott.
Now, on the other side of the ball, you were at the game in Kelowna this past week. I'm curious. I mean, you got to give credit where it's due. Vernon Adams Jr., he came out maybe with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder facing his former team, but Calgary's looking pretty decent.
Yeah, they do, and they just got better because they got Flo Arimolade back, and I thought he made a big difference in his first game. I mean, he and Jalen Hutchings on that D-line and Clarence Hicks, I think, with all due respect to, Mike Rose, who I heard earlier on the program, which was great, but with all due respect to the rest of the D-lines in the league, this could be the best D-line in the league really quickly. And it showed. It showed in their first game when they were working back together again. But, yeah, when you talk about Vernon Adams, I think the biggest difference with Vernon for me this year has been another step in his sort of growth journey, maturity, if you want to say it that way. I mean, he's a veteran player, but you are always growing and learning and evolving. And I think the difference for me with Vernon Adams right now is we see the slinging it down the field, the big plays that he loves to make. He's more patient at times now. I think he's making better decisions when he's running with the ball as far as hook sliding or getting out of bounds early so he doesn't take unnecessary hits. And most importantly, Vernon Adams had a reputation for that one or two bad plays in a game. He would throw for 350 yards, and then he would look and just throw it to the wrong color jersey, and everybody would go, what happened? Why did that happen when he's playing so well? And I think now, if you go back to last year, Vernon Adams has not thrown an interception in 155 attempts or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but it's been 4 games this year, a couple games last year. He hasn't thrown a pick. So not only is he making sounder decisions, understanding when it's time to manage a game and not having to push the whole issue and try to maybe force the ball because you're chasing the score or you're behind or whatever. And now he's making those good decisions and avoiding the big mistake. And I just think that's a whole new step in Vernon Adams' development and evolution, and he looks really good. He's under control, composed, and yeah, I bet there was a little of that chip that you talked about because I'm not sure players that get cut or traded from their teams ever lose that chip on their shoulder when they're playing their old teammates.
And that could be a dangerous thing in a 9-team league.
Yeah, exactly, because you see them 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, let's shift over to the Riders here quickly. It's inevitable. No team is going to go undefeated all season. The Riders dropped their first one of 2026. Did that game change your opinion of Saskatchewan at all, or was it simply just maybe exposing some injuries or some things that would inevitably catch up with them?
No, it didn't at all. I mean, Trevor Harris threw for 400 yards.
Yeah.
I think you'd take that any time, or we all would if you're a Rider fan. I didn't think it was a reflection of any area of concern or anything like that. I mean, injuries are you're always worried about that, but I think, as Trevor Harris has mentioned this week to the media, that this is not something they're not used to. If they're without a Sam Emlis or Schaefer Baker or whomever it might be, they're quite used to having the next guy step up and be an important part of the offense. And so this is not like, what do we do now? And I think I'm quoting Harris there. No, not what do we do now, but let's just keep moving and get better, and we'll figure out why we lost and try to not make the same mistakes. But I thought in that game that it was maybe the best game. You go back to Chad Kelly's, the end of his kind of run before his injury, and take half of that season and the first couple of games this season. I thought the Rider game was his best game of all of those. And I say that not because of his arm talent. His arm talent has always been there, and he's many times thrown for a lot of yards in games, and some of the throws he makes are, just big-time throws into tight windows or real accurate throws when he's on the run, things like that. So the arm talent has never been a concern or question mark. But what I saw in that Rider game was when something did go bad, his body language changed. And I don't know if it's because he's talked to his head coach or he's just aware of it now more, or he's making adjustments. Not sure. We'd have to talk to him about that. But I just saw a kind of a different guy, more composed quarterback, a guy who wasn't by his body language trying to point the finger in any way. He didn't get any scuffles with his head coach or arguments. If something went wrong, he went to the sideline, looked at the tablet, got ready, and went back and played and made some good throws. So I think when he does that, he is one of the top players in the league. My only question with him has always been, can he keep that other side of him in check? And what I mean by that is just the guy that might react when things aren't going well. So, I thought it was Chad Kelly's maybe his best game in a while, and it was a game that they earned the win, and Saskatchewan drops that one, makes some adjustments, and goes into Ottawa this week.
To circle back to your stat with Vernon Adams, I went and got it. It was 178 consecutive passes without throwing a pick.
There you go.
Very impressive stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was.
You can call him backgammon.
Yeah.
Circle backgammon. Takes a while to get those stats. That's remarkable. I mean, in this game, when you think of a ball being tipped at the line of scrimmage or batted in the air by a linebacker, so many things can happen, and to be that accurate and avoid that big mistake for that long is really saying something. I think there's just another small step forward for Vernon Adams, which, if that defense is what I think it can become, and Vernon Adams and Dedrick Mills are working together with a balanced offense, that's going to be a very difficult team the rest of the way.
Calgary's going to be a really fun team to watch this season. Chad Kelly has already been quite a bit of fun to watch this season. I mean, unless you're a Rider fan, you did not want to see that loss last week. But a lot of people also, there's been a lot of chatter about the decision to put Samuel Emlis back there to return punts after stepping in for an injured James Letcher Jr. And then, of course, Sam Emlis jumps in there, and then he gets injured. Corey Mace, he backed up his decision-making on that call, and he does not regret it whatsoever. In your philosophy, when you have your highest-paid receiver going back there returning punts, do you think that was the right call, ultimately?
Yeah, and let me explain my angle here, and that is that there's a bunch of aspects of this. First of all, the rosters are small, so there's not 75 guys there. They're not complete special team players with backups for the special team players. The starting receivers, the starting DBs have to play on the special teams. They have to be backups to special teams players, and so basically the roster restriction dictates that a Sam Emlis or a Schaefer Baker or whoever has to do that. Now, the other thing is, I think when people are upset because he's a top paid receiver and you're putting him in harm's way, there are receivers covering punts. There are the starting DBs and corners that you can't afford to lose that are on punt return and punt cover teams or kickoff cover teams. So again, with a small roster, your star players across the board on offense and defense have to play on special teams. And with special teams being a third of our game, it's different in the States, but a third of our game, those plays are important. A big return changes a game. A good cover team can change a game and pin a team deep. All of those things really matter in a big way. So coaches in general forever have been reluctant to put a guy who they may not think is ready, a guy at a camp that's a young player, say a young receiver. They're more reluctant to put them on a special teams assignment because special teams are so important in our game. Mm-hmm. And maybe the third thing for the fans that were really angry, I would say that let's not take for granted how the skill that is necessary to return a punt. There's tremendous skill that's necessary there. I mean, first of all, just catching the ball in the air. I mean, have you ever seen you probably have, Teagan, you ever see the halftime where they'll bring a fan out of the stands and the fan gets $100 or whatever if they catch a punt?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's humbling.
And you watch. Yeah, and they're stumbling around and they're nowhere near it, or it hits them and bounces. So, and yes, these guys are pro athletes. I'm not comparing to a fan out of the stands. I just mean there's a great skill set necessary to being a punt returner. It's not just throw anybody in there and we'll be okay, because it's very tough to track a punt, make the catch, keep your head up, know you're going to get blasted in about 5 seconds after you catch it. All of those things require a certain skill set, and there's not many guys that can do it. So when you add up all those things, Corey Mace, that was the right decision. You put a good player who is going to catch the ball in the air, who can make a return and maybe improve field position. And if that's the best guy you can think of after your returner in Fletcher is Sam Emlis, then Sam Emlis is the guy. And one last thing, all of those players, including Sam Emlis, I bet you asked to do it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Those guys, like, whenever I was in a meeting and it came down to, there was never who wants to play on the punt team or it was never like that. The coaches decided. But if I was ever taken off of one, I'd go and ask the coach why and want to be back on it. Players don't want to leave the field. So Sam Emlis has, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm guessing he went in at some point and said, Coach, you need a punt returner, I can do it, and I'll be great at it. And that's another aspect there. So when you add all those things up, I'm with Corey on the decision, and we just hope that Sam will be fine and back as soon as possible.
Yeah, I feel like, Suits, a lot of people forget last year when we had a little bit of struggles on the return game when we had like Dre McCray, and
why do you got to bring that up, Curtis?
He bobbled a lot of balls. It's a lot harder than it looks, and I feel like they need to bring back a certain TV show that was from 2006 to 2010. It was Pros versus Joes. Just know that the pros
it's so good.
And the Joes, there's a big difference.
See, well, and this was something I was even talking to Wes Cates about. post-game and how it's incredibly difficult to track that ball when you're on the field. And then Dave Thomas brought it up yesterday on the show. Okay, well, you have, 200-plus pound men, a whole bunch of them, a handful of them running at you as you're trying to track this ball. It's not an easy gig, and I think sometimes we forget that.
Scary.
Yes, not easy gig, and very, very important in Canadian football. One of the main reasons, and I'm stealing this from Dave Dickinson in Calgary, he said it after the game, but one of the main reasons for increase in scoring is that, yes, we have great quarterback play, but we also have great returners in the league right now. And those returners are generating tremendous field position for the offenses. And when you're an offense that needs half the field to go and score instead of trying to drive the entire field, world of difference. So that's the important part of Canadian football return game. And, yeah, you put your best player available out there to do that.
Well, and Sam Emelis, of course, he unfortunately goes down. He leaves the game. Next man up mentality, as it is in the game of football. So Daniel Wiebe comes in. It presents an opportunity for this rookie, and it ends up working out pretty well for the Rosetown, Saskatchewan native. I'm sure you saw this, Glenn. I mean, last time he was there, 2025 Vanier Cup. Unfortunately, they lost to Montreal, but he was just with the Huskies last fall. An incredible touchdown moment for him.
As the guys say, Daniel Wiebe is a dog. I love it. But first of all, this explains the hierarchy. The younger player is third on the depth chart in returning those kicks. So when they lost their number one returner, they go to number two, who is Emelis, and then he went down, and now it's Daniel Wiebe goes out there. And yes, that for a rookie is money time. That's when there's probably going in the initial game plan, not many opportunities for you to go and get your hands on the ball. There'll be opportunities for covering kicks and returning, being on the kick return team where you're blocking, being on the punt return team when you're blocking, all of those things. But very few opportunities for a young player to get their hands on the ball. And when a guy goes down, that's your chance. Every single player that is a star in the league at one point was Daniel Wiebe wanting his opportunity to go out and make a play with the ball in his hands. And I thought he played great. And again, I'm not surprised. Watched him in college a little bit. And, that's why you always say when you're a backup quarterback or a backup whomever, you better be mentally ready and take those mental reps and don't be checking out in practice, because everybody is important and you never know when your chance is going to come up.
Now looking ahead a little bit here, Glenn, I know we're running out of time here, but as we turn to Ottawa for the Saskatchewan Roughriders on the road this week, sure, the Red Blacks are 0-3, and last I checked, Eugene Lewis is still out, but desperate teams can sometimes be a bit dangerous. Are they a little bit tougher than you think their record suggests right now?
I'll say this about their team. I think they were still kind of getting, well, first of all, they had a bad weather game out of the gate. So it's hard to judge anything in that, like really bad, like torrential rainpour. So that was one thing. Take that one out. And then evaluate the quarterback situation. There was a change there coming out of camp with Jake Maier taking over for Drew Brown. Drew Brown gets traded. It's Jake Maier's team right now. And I thought his second half last week, even though they lost by 2 to a very good Montreal team, I would say that's enough film that the Riders shouldn't take this team for granted. And if they look at the second half with Jake Maier, I thought that half alone was enough to show you what he's capable of. Mm-hmm. So there's enough on video for them to go, this is a better team than their record. It always is. It's like you could look at it the other way too in some ways, guys. Like if you're a 3-0 team or a 4-0 team, you're probably not as good as your record either. Like everybody gets real excited about it, and you should. But as soon as you start thinking you're all of that, that's when reality strikes and you get knocked down a couple of pegs. So I think they're gonna not look past this team. It is tough. We are human beings. It's like I've always said, the difference between an NHL playoff game and an NHL regular season game is night and day different in speed and intensity. Why is that? Why don't they play that hard in the regular season? Because there's a lot of games, and they're up and down, and there's travel, and there's the mental aspect, and maybe there's a nick and whatever. Now it's playoffs, it's do or die, and something just clicks. You can't bottle it. You can't control it. It just happens, and you play at a different level. So there could be a little of that when it comes to playing against a team that hasn't won yet, trying not to fight the mental, don't take them for granted kind of thought. But I think you look at the video, you'll see a lot of great athletes that are trying to figure it out, and you don't want to be the team that they play against when they do.
Glenn, I could pick your brain asking you questions about football all afternoon, but we've taken up too much of your time as is, so I really do appreciate this.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah. And yes, staying in Kelowna, and yes, there will be a little wine testing.
Okay, wine testing?
A little wine tasting.
And I hope that you catch some fish tonight, because that would taste pretty dang good for supper with that wine.
Right? Little dill in there, little butter, lemon.
Greek yogurt. Yeah. Oh. Invite me next time.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, appreciate it, Glenn. Of course, that is press coverage with Glen Suitor, brought to you by Freeze Tallman. More Than a Lumberyard, locally owned, family grown, rooted in community for 70 years in Regina and Fort Capel. And delivery is also available. Oh, I love chatting with Glenn. He's great. He'll be back with us later in the week, I believe, with Sharky on Thursday, because we'll be taking a break on the show tomorrow, and then Sharky is going to be taking over on Thursday, which could be a wild ride. And I really hope that Glen Suitor actually catches some fish on Thursday, because then they're just going to talk about that for a full hour. You know what's going to happen, Curtis.
Maybe he'll bring said fish onto the stream, and he'll show us him gutting and cleaning it right on the stream.
That would not...
Live entertainment.
That's
Are you
awful.
not entertained?
I would not be entertained by that. No, definitely not. Okay, anyway, if you want to join in the conversation at any point, I know we're already running short on time here, but the Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. Curtis, we still have time for Pick the Score?
Sure. Let's keep picking the score.
We haven't made the draw yet.
Nope.
Okay, so all you have to do is text us on that Prairie Land Rentals text line, like I just mentioned, 306-936-6262. You pick the score of the Rider game this upcoming weekend in Ottawa. Riders, Red Blacks, who do you think's going to win? Send in your score prediction along with your name, and you have a chance to win a $200 SaskTel gift card, and we'll even hook you up with tickets to the next Rider home game. So, again, 306-936-6262, score prediction and your name, and we will make that draw a little bit later on.
And if you say something nice about me, I'll put you in twice for the draw.
No, you won't. That's against the rules and regulations.
What are you talking about?
Backgammon.
I mean, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh, come on. You notice how he doesn't say something nice about Teagan. It's just all about him.
Yep.
Okay, this is the Sports Cage. It's on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.
It's time for the Sports Ticker, brought to you by Steelcraft Doors Regina, made in Western Canada for Western Canadians.
Western Canadian Baseball League action, regular season. We got Weyburn Beavers taking on the Energy City Cactus Rats on the road in Alberta there. Brooks Bombers in Saskatoon taking on the Berries. You got the Medicine Hat Mavericks in Moose Jaw facing the Miller Express. Let's see here. Red Sox off tonight. They got a doubleheader tomorrow for Canada Day at Curry Field. 2 and 5 p.m. is when they're going to take on the 57s. Canadian Elite Basketball League, Saskatoon Mambas taking on Winnipeg on the road. It's the Sea Bears. Major League Baseball action. We already have that Jays game underway, but we don't have it on the TV screen here in the studio, so I'm going to have to quickly look. Oh, it's scoreless. Top of the third between the Mets and Jays. Oh, now Curtis is getting it on the TV. You're the best. Okay, by the way, with the loss to Toronto last night, the Mets have tied their record for the fastest to 50 losses in a season over the last 30 years. The Mets are 35 and 50. Yikes. Okay. World Cup of Soccer, Canada taking on Morocco. That's going to be this Saturday in Houston in the round of 16. Today, that France and Sweden game, let me see here, 3-0 France, 3-0, pardon me, and then Mexico, Ecuador, 7 o'clock tonight. Kawhi Leonard could be coming back to Canada. It looks like the Raptors and the Clippers are closing in on a blockbuster deal that will send Kawhi Leonard back to Toronto. It's pretty much confirmed at this point. So Toronto would get Kawhi in exchange for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and then 2 second-round picks as per these reports. In other NBA news, LeBron James has informed the Lakers that he will sign elsewhere in free agency, according to these reports. James has spent the last 8 seasons in L.A. Okay, July 1st is tomorrow. That means free agency opens up in the NHL, and there's going to be plenty of action, I'm sure. Zach Werenski, Jason Robertson, Hellebuck, Larkin, those are just going to be a couple of the names that we're watching tomorrow. Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired Yorkton's own defenseman, Caden Korczak, from the Las Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for Parker Wotherspoon. Meanwhile, the Panthers have locked up a new goaltender in oh gosh, I can't even speak anymore. It's been a long day. They picked up Markstrom. I'm not going to go through all the specifics of that. And then, of course, our CFL power rankings here at the Sports Cage. The latest power rankings have the Alouettes moving to the top spot. Elk coming in second. They surged up the chart. And then Saskatchewan is at number 3. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can absolutely go to sportscage.com. Or if you're watching the stream right now, you'll see it. Montreal, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Hamilton, and then Toronto and Calgary, followed by Winnipeg, BC, and Ottawa. So that is your sports ticker, which is brought to you by Steelcraft Doors. Made in Western Canada for Western Canada. Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage is brought to you by Saskatchewan Lotteries. And we were talking a little bit about it earlier. We had a couple of conversations over at practice at Mosaic Stadium as the Green and White are back on the field preparing for their contest in Ottawa against the Red Blacks this Friday. Kickoff is at 5:30 local time. And Dave Thomas had an opportunity to catch up with one receiver, Johnny Johnson III.
Well, Mr. Johnson, well, that could have so many different meanings now all of a sudden on an offense. Johnny Johnson III getting a lot of reps this week in practice. Obviously, there's some injuries in the receiver room. Tell me how your week of preparation has gone.
It's basically been the same. I mean, there is extra hours you're putting in just for the opportunity that's on the way. So staying in later, getting more treatment, just adding a little bit more to everything.
Is there a difference from staying ready to getting ready?
There is a difference. I think when you're staying ready, you kind of just, whenever that moment comes, you fall back on the preparation. When you're getting ready, it's kind of like you're trying to catch up, and you never want to be in a catch-up state. You always want to be in a calm, I'm here state, living in the now.
You've observed 3 Canadian Football League games so far. What have you seen from not only your teammates, but what the league is throwing at you?
It's an exciting game, definitely. Definitely surprising how explosive the game is obviously an offensive type of game. With the 2 downs, there's constant drives, so it's a lot of great football and a lot of good players out there.
Not going to kid you, I was having fits when I saw Johnson was in motion, joining Johnson and Johnson on the other side. What do you guys do in the receiver room to differentiate yourself from one another?
I mean, key is key, J is J, and I'm Johnny, so it's like we just kind of go with it. So we don't really, the last name thing kind of doesn't even come up for real.
So the nickname is cool, so we can use that on the broadcast? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, y'all do what y'all do. We do,
Fair. What do you see with Ottawa this week as you're preparing for them? Because they're obviously a very hungry team right now.
Yeah, definitely a team that got something to prove. There's some players that were here last year that's over there. I think they're going to be juiced up, ready to go. So, we got to come with our best game.
Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate you coming along for the ride, as always. I'm Teagan Witko, joined by Curtis Gammon. He's keeping us on the air, 620 CKRM, on the stream as well. You can find that on our X account. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that at sportscage.com as well. A little late on the cue there, introducing yourself on the stream, though, Curtis. I will admit. I said your name, and then, you just kind of...
I got to press buttons.
Yeah, you
I got to press a few buttons.
Yeah.
Some buttons are more important than the others.
Also, Jeff is with you. Jeff from Weyburn texted us. Prairie Line Rentals text line, 306-936-6262. If the Riders don't do jazz hands to celebrate big plays next game, I will be very disappointed. And I know he texted that in just for you, Curtis.
That's perfect. And then if it's like a home game, too, the the
cheer squad?
The cheer squad and all the staff and stuff. They got to play some like old ragtime jazz and.
I don't like where this is heading.
It'd be pretty good. A little pizzazz, a little showbiz action. Be good.
Jeez.
Do it in the retro jerseys.
Okay. Oh my goodness. We also have predictions coming in for this week's game. There's a lot of them because SaskTel picked the score. You have a chance to win $200 for SaskTel.
I haven't even rolled the wheel yet. You still have your chance. If you haven't done your pick the score, get it in.
Get in on it. Tickets to the next Rider home game. So that'd be next Sunday. You also get that $200 for SaskTel. Captain Harvey's prediction for the game, 36-24 Riders. See, and you notice how the name was included. Make sure that you include your name along with your score prediction when you text it to us. Again, Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. It's been a good one. It's been a pretty fun one. We had, let me see here. You can always listen back in podcast form. We had Arash Madani on. Didn't even get to the Blue Jays. We spent so much time talking about CFL and all the other things that come along with World Cup. I don't regret it, but I would have liked to have him on for another segment. So Arash Madani, you can always go back, listen to our chat with him. Same with Scott Schultz in the midweek sound off. Lots of football talk with him and Glen Suitor. So great conversations there if you want to, wherever you find your podcasts, you can find that. Tuesday of the Sports Cage is for Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. And we also mentioned this yesterday. I still have yet to figure out who the winner is yet because I want to talk to them. But you know those scratch tickets, the Rider scratch tickets?
Oh, yes.
There was the $75,000 scratch ticket sold in Regina. So if you're listening in Regina, if you bought a ticket in Regina, scratch your ticket. Scratch it. Make sure that you check it because you might have $75,000. You might have a little piece of paper worth $75,000. They also had season tickets for 10 seasons and exclusive suite experiences and like all these other great prizes that you could win. So if you have one of those Riders scratch tickets, make sure that you double check, see if you won something.
It's a nice little bonus.
Feel free to share as well. Saskatchewan Roughrider 50-50 also continues. Thursday at 10 p.m. is the deadline for this week because every home game they have a different early bird prize. I promised I was going to look up, let me see, Riders 5050.ca. I'm going to look it up right now. This is where you get your tickets. The 50-50 prize jackpot right now already over $50,000. So winner will take half of that, but you also have additional chances to win stuff, which is pretty cool. This week, Labor Day game package for 2. 1 night stay in Regina. You got 2 custom Rider jerseys. You got 2 gold tickets to the Labor Day Classic, and 3 lucky winners will be receiving that prize package. Plus someone's winning the cash. Okay, again, $50,000 is where we sit right now, and that's only going to get higher. So if you wanted to grab your tickets, you might as well do that now. Riders5050.ca. Let's just keep the money train rolling here, okay? Sprinkle of the day. You got me, Curtis. You got me. Getting in on more of the sports action you want is as easy as going to sportsselect.com. Simply select your picks, generate that QR code, and then swing by one of your local Lotto Spot retailers on your way home and lock it in. Every bet is 100% legal. Chance of winning cash in hand. Sports Select. When you're ready to play, bet on the original. Just make sure you're 18 plus and make sure that you play responsibly. I think we want to start with, Ecuador, Mexico tonight. You read my mind. Okay, so Mexico is the favorite here. 2-point favorite. You can also take the tie. 250. Over under on this game, 2. I don't know nearly enough about football, to be sprinkling on this. So I would suggest you proceed with caution and do whatever you'd like. In the meantime, I want to check out that Rider Ottawa game this weekend. See, again, you're reading my mind, Curtis. So we're going down to Riders Red Blacks for this Friday's game. And it looks like, Riders 155, Ottawa 360. Riders the favorite in this one by quite a bit. The over-under is 57.5?
They've been catching on as every game thus far has
pretty
been
high scoring.
Over. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me even look at this previous week. We can look at the numbers here.
Because I'm inclined to take the under on this one, but it also depends on the weather.
Yeah. Toronto versus Saskatchewan was over. Calgary versus BC was over. Montreal versus Ottawa was over. The only game that was an under was that Winnipeg Edmonton game.
Oh, dang. Okay, I'm looking at the weather in Ottawa for Friday, 33 degrees and sunshine. They have a heat warning in effect right now in southern Ontario.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if that carries throughout the week, right now they have a heat warning and it's only 23 degrees. It's going to be, like in the low 30s for the rest of the week. This could be a hot weather football game. That makes me more inclined to take the under.
Really?
Kind of. Are they going to be tired?
They probably would be, but like I don't know if they would be like overly exerted because of the
physically?
heat. Like they're all professional athletes, right?
Well,
like they can compete.
But, I mean that's true. However, you're going to be doing warm up an hour before kickoff-ish, you're going to be on that field. So that's going to be 4:30 local time, which is 6:30 Eastern time.
Mind you, there's a lot of guys from like the States on the teams too.
So they like the hot weather.
Yeah. Forged in heat, depending what state you're from.
See, I would still be inclined to take the under. Take the Riders to win. Yeah, that's what I would do. Don't listen to me though, because whenever I sprinkle, it doesn't end well. Can we quickly, before we go here, I know you know what, we actually don't have any more time. Maybe tomorrow or Thursday, we can take a look at the Canada-Morocco lines. Because before we leave here today, we do want to run the one-on-one conversation that our own Dave Thomas had with Mathew Sexton. He's been fielding a lot of punts and taking more reps as receiver. Not as many as Johnny Johnson III, who we just heard from, but he has been getting some reps there as we have seen some injuries with the Saskatchewan Roughriders receiving core. By the way, receivers Emelis, Kean Schaefer-Baker, Del Duncan Busby, they were back on the practice field today. That's about the latest status that we have for you. Ali Saad also left the practice field early after tweaking his calf. And then the only other update that we have for you from Riders practice today, Delan Jete and Ryder Varga were also participating as they ramp up coming off that 6-game injured list. So just a couple of notes to make there, and we'll keep you posted. Riders will be back on the practice field tomorrow as well, so you can follow along at sportscage.com for the latest on that, because Curtis and I will not be here. So we will not be doing a show. But Sharky will be in on Thursday. You'll be in on Thursday, Curtis.
Yeah, Sharky and I are going to have a fun time. We'll talk about whatever.
It'll be something. It'll be good. It'll be good.
Dad's not home. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, pretty much. Barney's on vacation. Set the place on fire. It's fine. No,
there's no rules, only guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. Loose guidelines. Come on. They let me do this thing. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with that one-on-one with Mathew Sexton. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride on the Tuesday installment of the Sports Cage. Thank you, Curtis. And thank you for tuning in. It's a Sports Cage on the home of Rider Nation, 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.
Well, it's been a minute since we caught up at camp. Tell me, between then and now, how have things gone for you, and how are you adapting to the Canadian game, the playbook, and everything else?
Yeah, good. Definitely still learning some new rules and stuff like that. You know, it's a little different from down in the States, but getting adjusted. You know, every day is a grind, a blessing to be out here doing my thing.
A lot of different concepts as well, I'd imagine you have to get under your belt.
Yeah, for sure. From like a rule standpoint, for sure. Yeah. Still, football's football at the end of the day.
Tell me a little bit about injecting yourself into this lineup and the opportunities that you're being given this week in practice.
Yeah, really just taking it day by day, man. Really just, again, glad to be here. Whenever they put me wherever, I'm there and going to perform.
How difficult is it to catch a punt in the Saskatchewan wind?
Yeah, it's up there, man. It's up there. But, man, it's what we do. You know, it's what we do every day, train to do every day. So just stacking days.
How big or slim is the margin between success and not finding that seam or crease that you need?
Yeah, they're really slim. There's a saying that we said in college is 2 feet 2 seconds. So from a kickoff return standpoint, you want 2 feet and 2 seconds, just like how it sounds. You want to hit that hole as hard as you can. Run through the smoke. It's something that we say a lot. Its margin is you can't make any mistakes.
To quote Qualley, his saying was "No block, no rock." Is that true for receivers?
That is the truth for the receivers right there. Yep, that's the truth.